Oh,
The stereotype is when you do a rom-com, usually it turns into something real.
Method acting.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of pictures where it feels like, oh, they look like a couple, and they haven't come out to say no. So a lot of people are like, oh my god.
They wouldn't be the first good-looking actors who hook up on a movie set if Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell.
For Australia, I think I want to support it. I'm a really big fan of Halle Bailey. Danielle Brooks, another one she was in Orange New Black. She's gone on to do great things. First name's actually Samuel, but I guess his professional name is Blitz. Blitz Bazawule.
That's a better pronunciation than I was doing. So it looks emotionally wrenching. It's a tried and true story in terms of filmmaking.
Type in weird trailers. Google Emma Stone. Like, they probably are coming out with an original film that you never heard of.
And Emma Stone especially, because she is one that she can be Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man. My brain farting here. Doing a full Richard Lewis here. La La Land. She can dance even. She can sing. Fingers crossed that this movie is actually really good. Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here. Welcome to my fall movie releases podcast extravaganza. It's a very special episode of the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. Thank you for watching. We're going to be talking about all of the movies for the rest of 2023, and let us know in the comments section what movies you are excited to watch all the way up through Christmas 2023. So it's all fall movies here on Dragon Movie Guy, and what's the point of me just doing that in a podcast all by myself? So I thought, who can we bring on to talk fall movies? A new friend of the channel. I just discovered, like I somehow discovered his channel. No, I just came across his channel last week as he was guesting on another channel's podcast. This is a man from Brooklyn, New York. He is a YouTuber over the last couple of years. He's got 600 and some odd subs on his channel at this point and over 300 videos. He does new movie reviews. He does first time watching movie reviews, and he does live streams across the board. And he's formulating a plan to have a massive Zach army. Zach movie reviews. All Zachs all the time. Please welcome Zach Goldburn of Zach Attack Reviews. Zach, welcome to Dragon Movie Guy, and thank you for coming on my channel.
Oh man, that was one of the best intros I've ever had.
I try to keep it fresh, but I keep trying to come up with new and exciting stuff. But I usually just end up coming with something off the cuff. So thank you for coming on this fall movie releases video. It's hard to believe that fall is now basically almost here. Football's starting up, and fall movie season is upon us. Summer's over. Like, did you like the summer movie season this year? And are you looking forward to fall?
I had such a fun time during the summer going to movies. It was Barbenheimer really set it off, so it was a blast. And there was so many movies that just came out back to back to back. Unfortunately, a lot of them bombed, but I in particular enjoy it. Like, obviously I pay attention to the box office and I want movies to do well, but at the end of the day, a quality of the movie doesn't mean the box office has to be high. There's some great movies that don't do good. And we've gotten a mixture of raunchy comedies, we've gotten big blockbusters, we've gotten experimental stuff and mixed between some horror films. Probably shouldn't have come out there in the summer. Probably should have came out in the end of September, October. But we got some of that there too. So yeah, it's been a really fun time.
The worst thing is when movies that's just sort of like when a movie's bad. I don't like dunking on a bad movie, but there is something fun about dunking on a bad movie. Like, how bad was it? It was so bad, jazz hands. Like, and we definitely got a few clunkers this summer. Like, I have my list, but what was your favorite bad movie of summer 2023?
I think it just came out. It's called Retribution with Liam Neeson. That recently came out this past Friday, the last movie of the summer, basically. It's a Liam Neeson movie, but it's not as good as his early stuff. It's like a copy and paste, and it has some Lifetime elements, but they released it in the theaters, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah, and it's, I just was thinking about this the other day. Like, there's a whole other subgenre of guys over 60 kicking ass in movies. And at what point does that become like, we still have like Clint Eastwood every once in a while coming out with like a Walker and like a cane, like, get off my lawn, and somehow still kicking people's butts. And so,
Yeah.
like, at what point is it like, oh, grandpa, versus
I
like, wow, old guy
definitely
still
felt
got it.
that this movie. I definitely felt that during this Liam Neeson movie. I was like, ooh, your hand is starting to shake. And I don't think that was supposed to be in the script.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
Well,
You need to
because
back it up, man.
we got Retribution, and then we have one that's, we've got one from Denzel, and Denzel's now right at that point of like, he's got some gray hairs now too. So yeah, we got all of our guys that are, the movie stars that we all liked, loved growing up, kind of stretching it a little bit, but old man strength. It's a movie, so yeah, we'll believe the old man strength a little bit there too. Retribution. It almost looks like an SNL sketch waiting to happen, doesn't it? Like,
oh, 1000%.
Like,
oh my god, it's going to be.
Liam Neeson kicking ass movies. Like, it's almost like they've run out of titles and thesauruses to try and figure out what's another word instead of taking. Yes. Retribution. Yes, that's lots. That's 3 syllables. Or 4 syllables. That'll make a good movie title. Yeah.
He had a movie last year called Blacklight, and it had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
There was not that word
no
wasn't even
blacklights?
used in the film. No blacklights at all. Not Project Blacklight, nothing.
No DNA testing or like embarrassed teenage boys trying to hide things from their parents. No blacklights at all.
Nothing. I was
No.
like, jeez.
So as we get started with our fall movie releases, the format's going to be pretty simple. We're going to start with your list, and we're going to go back and forth. Where we have movies that are the same, I'll talk about the movie at the same right after you talk about your movie. Okay. So, like when Aquaman comes out, I've rearranged my list to coincide with your list. So when you talk about Aquaman, then I'll talk about Aquaman. The numbering is going to be a little bit wonky here, as. But you're the guest, so I'm keying all of my list off of your list, so it'll all make sense as we're going along. Hopefully we'll do roughly, 5, 6, 7 minutes on each one. I don't want to keep you all night, but, it's fun to have a good potpourri of discussion of movies coming up for the entire rest of the year. And by the way, can you believe that we're entering the final third of 2023 already?
It flew by.
I'm so excited for fall movie season to start, so let's talk fall movies, shall we? Your number 15 movie is The Marsh King's Daughter. This has Daisy Ridley from the Star Wars sequel, prequel extravaganza. Tell me a little bit about The Marsh King's Daughter.
It's starring Daisy Ridley. It's also starring Ben Mendelsohn. Some people will know him from the MCU, Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel, but he's been around for a long time. He's a great actor. And it also has Gil Birmingham, who is like a character actor that's in a bunch of films. I just recently saw this trailer and I got excited for it. I'm a fan of Daisy Ridley, and I really want her to succeed because she got a lot of shit for Star Wars, which was not her fault at all. It's a murder mystery, like you said. She's basically the daughter of an abductor. Her mother was a young child that was abducted by a grown man, and he had her when her mother was a child. He raised her and he basically brainwashed her. Now she has her own family, and she finds out that he'd been let out of jail. Little things that are in her house that reminds her of him, that like he's been in the house. I like a film that can have a good mystery, some little paranoia where you're trying to figure what's going on, but with a little bit of a character study going on as well. And I think that with these actors that are in it, it could be a really great film.
Daisy Ridley, she's a British actress. Are you buying Daisy Ridley's American, slightly over-the-top American accent that she's using in The Marsh King's Daughter?
I didn't notice it when I first watched the trailer, but then I saw a comment and I was like, oh yeah, she is doing American accent. So I watched it again and I was like, it does sound kind of weird. And I'm hoping that as the movie progresses, it gets better and she's more comfortable doing it. But I can tell, like, yeah, you're overcompensating a little bit because you don't know how to do this.
Well, we, as Americans, we shouldn't be that impressed. Like, American movies go everywhere, and she's a native English speaker, so of course she knows how to do an American accent. For whatever reason, I don't know why all of us Americans can't do a British accent better. Like, we always end up sounding like Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, like, hey, come down!
That's like the only thing we ever been exposed to from Brits.
Like chimney. Like, there are other British accents. Like, well, chitty, bang, bang, chitty. Like, enough with the Dick Van Dyke.
Us.
Yeah. It's not doing Americans any good.
No.
But yeah, British people doing American accents always seems to end a lot
A
better
lot of the
than
best actors are British,
yeah,
and they do American accents. You never know. Like
yeah.
90% of the superheroes we've gotten are British.
Well, like for example, John Boyega. It's hilarious that he was doing Star Wars with Daisy Ridley, and his American accent is so on the nose that
Yeah.
you forget that they're both Brits. It's funny how that all works. So
I forget until he starts talking in interviews.
yes, and I'm also the same way with the guy from The Wire, Dominic West. That's it. Yeah, something I knew it was something West. Yeah, so Dominic West. I always forget. I always forget that he's British, and then he shows up for some like the Tonight Show or something, and he's got like an ascot on or some sort of a scarf like flowing over his neck, and I'm like, I forget he's a British actor. He's cultured, sensitive,
Like super stereotypical British.
yeah. I think he does that just to say I am British after all. I've got the ascot on. So
Yeah.
also interesting in this film is Garrett Hedlund. He was in the Tron Legacy movie.
Yes, I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's he shows up every once in a while. What's your take on Ben Mendelsohn playing the psycho killer in this one?
I'm used to seeing him play either a good guy or someone in the gray, but to play like a straight up psychopath, I haven't seen him do. But the little that they've shown of him in the trailer, I feel like he got the outfit, he got the crazy beard, and he like became the weirdo.
The psycho killer out in the
Yeah,
woods somewhere.
yeah, he's just following people.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one comes out October 6th. My number 14 film is the remake of The Color Purple. And this is sort of an interesting one because I have not seen the original Color Purple. I don't know why I haven't seen it. I'm a huge Steven Spielberg fan. Love Whoopi Goldberg. Love Oprah. I even have purchased on my stack over here the original Color Purple on Blu-ray that I just haven't gotten around to watching yet, as we do. Never seen the original Color Purple, but as we move into fall now, we're starting to get some Oscar contender type films, or at least potential Oscar contender type films. It's time to start thinking in terms of those emotionally deep, wrenching sorts of films and filmmaking and conversations. The Color Purple, I believe it was at least nominated for a couple of Oscars, the original one. So it wouldn't shock me if the remake this time around also got nominated for a couple of Oscars. And it is a lot of talent involved in this film. Anjanou Ellis Taylor, Halle Bailey from the Little Mermaid movie, Taraji P. Henson from the Brad Pitt Aging Backwards movie, Corey Hawkins, Louis Gossett Jr., David Alan Grier. I'm old school. Like, I love David Alan Grier on In Living Color, so I'm not used to seeing David Alan Grier in a drama, so that'll be interesting. But amazing cast, Bazawali. I'm probably butchering his name, so I'm sorry.
This is a big opportunity for him.
Yeah. So, have you seen any of his work before? And what's the correct way to say his name? And have you seen his work before?
I haven't heard his name said out loud yet. I haven't seen him in interviews. I need to watch him because it looks like he's done some stuff. It's probably Bazawule, how you say his last name. I think his first name's actually Samuel, but I guess his professional name is Blitz. That's really weird, but Blitz Bazawule.
That's a better pronunciation than I was doing. So, the first trailers have come out, and it looks emotionally wrenching, and it's a tried and true story in terms of filmmaking. So, are you excited for the Color Purple remake to come out here too?
I've also haven't seen the original, which is like a travesty. I'm almost gonna get my black card taken away every time I tell people that. But I haven't seen the original. I want to go watch it before this one comes out, just so I can have some reference and just to see a classic film like that. I think we own it as well. I think I own the movie and I just never watched it. But just it's a little hard for me to watch like the old timey films like that. Sometimes I'm kind of over like the slave or segregation kind of films. I've seen a lot of them. They are important to come out because we always need to remember what happened so it doesn't happen again. But for me, I think I've had enough of it. But because of the cast here, I think I want to support it. I'm really big fan of Halle Bailey. I think she's such a wonderful person. Well, from what she's shown us. And Cole Domingo, who I'm a really big fan of, he recently, there's coming out that he just won an award for an early screening of this film. So he's like a front runner right now for Best Actor because of that. because he won the award that Brendan Fraser won for The Whale. And I really think he's an underrated actor. I've seen him in a couple different things, and he just does such a great job. Danielle Brooks, another one she
Yep.
was in Orange New Black,
Yep.
and she's gone on to do great things. Corey Hawkins, who was in The Voyage of Last Demeter this year,
Yep.
I think he did a great job in that as well. And like you said, David Allen Greer doing something serious is so weird, but I'm excited to see Dion Cole, another comedian who I'm not used to seeing do serious things. He's doing like commercials for like acts. So to see him in like a serious movie now is really interesting. But the fact that I've never seen the story before, I'm really excited to see an updated version, see what they do with it.
Dion Cole used to be a writer on Conan several years ago. So
Mm,
there's that whole thing about Martin Scorsese. Oh, this is my point. Martin Scorsese figured out this formula. Besides casting Margot Robbie when she's 23 in The Wolf of Wall Street, uh, the idea is that it's easier for comedians to do drama because doing comedy is hard. So it's
yes.
easier to take talented comedians and have them do dramatic acting than having dramatic actors try and be funny on camera. So with The
Yep.
Wolf of Wall Street, that's part of the reason why that film had such great chemistry is they cast all of those comedians that you've always seen on late night talk shows, but you probably don't know their names, as all of the people in the phone bank on Wolf of Wall Street. So it's interesting, completely different style movie, also Oscar bait, but interesting that you have Dion Cole and David Allen Greer in the Color Purple remake. That's sort of an
Yeah.
interesting combination because I'm probably not going to be able to sit through the entire movie without at least flashing in my mind somewhere Two Men on
Yeah.
Film. Hated
I
it,
love
loved it. So I'm sure I probably won't be in the middle of the film, but I'm sure right before or right after.
yeah.
But yeah, so Color Purple, my number 14 film. This is one that kind of almost made it onto my list, but when you're talking seasonal movies like this, there's so many coming out in the fall. Appropriately enough, Anatomy of a Fall coming out in the fall. Uh, tell me
I was
about
gonna
this
be
film.
really mad if you didn't make that joke. I was like,
Yeah.
you have to. Oh man. So this is actually a trailer I saw in the theaters. Watched it. It came out in theaters like a while ago. I think this movie got pushed. I think it was supposed to come out earlier, but I think it got pushed to avoid this crazy summer bloat that we had. And then I saw the trailer recently again last week, and I was like, this looks like it's down my alley. Another movie that's kind of like The Marsh, King's Daughter in terms of feel, not the same subject matter. This wife who they're accusing of killing her husband, who was pushed off like a 3-story building and murdered. And they're using infidelity and trying to, it feels like they're trying to frame her, but there's also a feel of like maybe she did it. I like films like that. It's a little lifetimey, but it feels like it's going to be done in a professional manner that will feel a little deeper than a Lifetime film.
Hopefully, at least.
Yeah.
If it got the budget for not being shot on video and actually having good cinematography and a decent cast. I have not heard of any of these people in the cast. Even just the log line of the woman suspected of murder and her blind son is the only witness.
Such a
Kinda,
Lifetime thing.
yeah.
But
But
I think it's one of those things where they feel like this is the only way to advertise it. There's a lot of movies like that where like the quality of the film is not great in the advertising because they don't want to reveal what it's actually about.
the idea of a blind eyewitness is sort of funny. But then again, you know what? Daredevil's actually pretty good. Completely different type of film. Have you seen any of these actors in anything else before? Because I don't.
No.
I'm struggling to recognize any of the actors that were.
That was one of the things that I was like watching the trailer. I was like, do I want to put this on my list? Like, I don't know the actors, I don't know the directors. Well, I just was so intrigued by the premise, and then I saw that it already has like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's
Really.
just a little bit more reassuring that maybe it's good, you know?
And are you much of an indie film watcher? Like I love indie movies and like especially this August. This August has been one where we haven't gotten a lot of big superhero movies coming out, but we did get a lot of indie movies. So are you an indie movie watcher?
Yeah, my favorite production company is A24, and that they got me into like Neon, Focus Features, and a bunch of the indie stuff, they opened my mind to watching more weirder, more slower paced films, more character studies and stuff like that. That's why I love something like The Joker, because it's not an indie film, but it has the indie feel, but it has the big budget and everything like that. I think Gone Girl made it maybe the movie that really opened me up to that, because it's not an indie film. It's Ben Affleck film, so obviously it's not indie, but it has that feel. It just has high production values, and it just hit me in a way I was like, "Whoa, this is very different from everything that's coming out." It's slower paced, takes its time, and then it got the ball. That's one of the things that got the ball rolling. So I love independent films. Some of my favorite movie of the year right now, well, not my favorite movie, my second favorite movie of the year right now is Beau is Afraid.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's super indie.
yeah. I was really looking forward to it, but yeah, Beau is Afraid. Oh man, I
Not for
went
you.
off. I went off on Beau is Afraid. I love the whole cast and I love the director, but that
Yeah.
mommy issues. Really, the entire
Oh,
3 hours
1000%.
mommy issues.
This is Ari Aster working out his mommy issue.
Yeah, he really does. He has some issues. There's definitely there's a show in there somewhere. There's a podcast at the very least that Ari
Documentary.
Aster and his mommy issues.
Yeah.
Coming to Dragon Movie Guy Fall 2023. My number 13 movie, Paul Giamatti, directed by Alexander Payne, who, for everyone who doesn't know, Alexander Payne did Sideways, he did The Descendants. He's an indie film movie director, and he usually comes out with a completely different take on filmmaking every couple of years. Not completely unattached to everything, but he doesn't tell the same story twice. And in this film, The Holdover, Alexander Payne is telling the story. It looks like it's in the late 70s, early 80s, because they even do the trailer in the style of that sort of 70s dramatic horror film kind of like when Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did Grindhouse, and they have that very specific voiceover guy style, like that sort of that
Yeah.
overly baritone,
Inspired.
but like AM radio style recording. Like that's the guy doing the voiceover in The Holdovers, and that it's just such that very specific way of doing of telling us what era this is, because this is set at a boarding school with people that are so wealthy that their parents come and pick the students up in a helicopter. And Paul Giamatti is the teacher at Christmas time who's left behind, left over, held over. He is the holdover. He is the one teacher left behind to watch over the students whose parents didn't care enough about them to send the helicopters to pick them up
Oh my
for the
God.
holidays. So you can imagine all of the stuff that we get, all of the kinds of things that we get with the rich, the spoiled rich kids,
Of
the
course.
kids with too much money and too much time on their hands, and
Yeah.
a period piece set in the late 70s, early 80s. Great cast, we got Paul Giamatti, we got Carrie Preston, True Blood. Carrie Preston's in True Blood, and a whole cast of young actors who I haven't seen before, but I'm sure we recognize their faces from all sorts of it. Have you seen the trailer for The Holdovers?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing about the film, and I'm very intrigued now.
Alexander Payne is one of those directors where he doesn't put out bad films.
Oh, he did Downsizing? Okay.
Yeah, and Nebraska was one that he directed a couple of years ago. That was the black and white one. Adult son learning to come to terms with his father, getting sick and passing. So he usually has moments of levity and fun, but also has a really dramatic story to tell. So I've never seen a bad Alexander Payne movie. Plus, Paul Giamatti, for anyone who's seen Sideways, that whole Pinot Noir, his whole rant, anything Paul Giamatti's great. But Paul Giamatti's rant on Pinot Noir being basically urine. And so to see, so that's why I'm really excited to see Paul Giamatti re-teamed up with Alexander Payne and pissed off at the holidays, pissed off at life, pissed off at these kids that he doesn't get a couple week break from. So.
Being the Grinch.
Yeah. Being the Grinch.
It sounds like it could be very good comedic effect, man. That sounds like a comedy.
Yeah. Holdovers is number 13 on this. Poor Things.
Yeah.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah.
And this is the guy who did The Lobster. This is the guy who did
The Favorite.
Yeah, The Favorite, which also had Emma Stone in it. So tell me about Poor Things.
One day I was looking like I want to do a trailer action. I haven't done a trailer action in a while, so I typed in trailers on YouTube a couple months ago, and I saw Poor Things. And I saw Emma Stone. And I was like, oh, I love Emma Stone, and this looks weird. So I did it, and I was like, what the hell is this? And it looks like a weird version of Frankenstein and its creator, or Frankenstein and the monster, and Emma Stone being the monster. And I like the idea of it having like a Wes Anderson kind of feel, but not being totally Wes Anderson, because sometimes Wes Anderson goes too far. But I love that it has that wonky feel to it. But it looks like the monster who Emma Stone is playing is like a child in the beginning, and through the trailer, it looks like she's starting to learn different things, learn about relationships, learning how to be properly interact with people. And I think that could be really, really interesting on a dramatic side, and I think it'd be really, really funny on a comedic side. This director, he does really weird movies. He's made one of my favorite movies in Under the Skin, with
That's the other
Scarlett
one.
Johansson. Obviously, he did Killing of the Sacred Deer, which I haven't gotten to see, but I heard great things about. And she wrote on a show called IO on Netflix, which was really, really solid as well. So he has a great track record, and the cast is actually pretty stacked for this movie in like an unnecessary way.
Do
He
we really need Mark
has,
Ruffalo? Like, yes, you
yeah,
do. It's Mark Ruffalo. It's Mark frickin'
yeah,
Ruffalo.
yeah, Emma Stone, William Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, and Christopher Abbott, who are actually in one of my favorite movies this year that came out.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Margaret Qualley is Andy McDowell's daughter. So
Yeah, she's in this movie
yeah.
Sanctuary with Chris Abbott this year, which was really, really good. So I'm glad to see them team up. And he has some comedians here, and I think a theme through this stream is comedians doing like serious work. And Youssef from the Ramy Show, like maybe
Oh
taking a serious turn here, and I think that could be really, really cool. Gerard Carmichael, another comedian,
yep.
taking maybe a serious turn here, and I'm interested in see how those performances translate in this kind of weird film.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to make of this film in and of itself. You know, it's such a it's a weird thing. You know, I took this as a screen cap from the actual movie poster, and it's Emma Stone with, I wouldn't even really call it eyeshadow, but two different colors of eyeshadow sort of smeared across her above her eyes and below her eyebrows. But yeah,
Yeah,
she's such a great actress and can do
yeah,
comedy as well as drama so well. Seeing her do the whole Frankenstein's monster thing at points in this trailer is really interesting. Willem Dafoe. The makeup on Willem Dafoe looks so
insane.
bizarre. I keep
Yeah,
thinking of
or yeah,
Brendan Fraser in Doom Patrol, which is a DC Comics streaming show on HBO Max or just
yeah,
Max now. He plays sort of like a Frankenstein's monster type character, but more of a robot. So
yeah.
for whatever reason, the makeup on Willem Dafoe to me looks
Reminds you.
like that character for whatever reason. Obviously, it's two different styles of film. But I was really excited for this one too. This is the first crossover on our list. I have Poor Things as my number 6 film. Love everyone about this film, and it's just such a bizarre film that I don't
Yeah,
really know the tone. Tone
yeah,
is such a weird thing. Just looking at this director's filmography, if you look at The Lobster is so under emoted and
yes,
bizarre. And yet, The Favorite is one that I believe got a couple of Oscar nominations, and even just within his filmography, he does vastly different styles of filmmaking. So this trailer alone is one that I honestly I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and I don't know what this movie's gonna be like.
it
It's
goes back to like Alexander Payne, how he doesn't do the same movie twice.
yeah,
It feels like this guy doesn't do the same tone twice.
yeah.
He's just like, let's try something different this time.
Yeah, and I really, I love trailers. I really hope that the trailer is not a complete. It's not a misdirection. It's not a misdirect
Yeah,
for the type of film that it is, because it doesn't happen very often that is a possibility. I really hope this film is good, and anytime you see these type of indie films too coming out in December, right before the start of the year, you can kind of feel that these are the ones that are supposed to get the Oscar nominations or at least be a dark horse to be nominated for an Oscar.
A lot of people complain about there's no original films. There's no original films, just remakes and blockbusters. It's Disney Live. Go support these kind of movies. Do a little bit of homework. It's not that hard. Literally, all you have to do is type in trailers. Type in weird trailers. Do Google Emma Stone, like Google your favorite actor, and they probably are coming out with an original film that you never heard of. This is
Yeah,
something that needs to be supported.
absolutely, and Emma Stone especially, because she is one that she can be Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man, and she can
Knocked it out of the park.
also do comedy. She can do
Easy A is
these.
one of my favorite movies, and she killed it.
Yeah, and she does everything well.
La La Land.
La La La, yeah. You know, my brain farting here. I'm doing a full Richard Lewis here. Yeah, La La Land. She can dance even. She can sing. Knew that Emma Stone could sing. So yeah, love Emma Stone, and yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed that this movie is actually really good.
Old man.
You know, he's not old yet. He's older, but he's old enough to have a trilogy for the Equalizer. This is Denzel kicking butt, taking names, and going full Liam Neeson on an unsuspecting Italian village where he's trying to retire. Looks like I actually haven't seen any of these films yet, but definitely need to catch up on the Equalizer. So tell me, your number 12 movie, The Equalizer Part 3.
Yeah, so I recently watched the first two this year. I think I watched the first one like 3 months ago, and then I saw the trailer for 3. I was like, oh, there's another one coming out. Let me go watch 2. And I'm like in the minority of people that like 2 more than 3. 2 more than 1. A lot of people like 1 more because it's a little bit more focused. But these are fun films. I don't think they're like John Wick level or like the best action films ever, but Denzel's so charismatic that he doesn't even need to run around for you to like him. In these movies, he really just like stands in one place most of the time and kind of walks slowly. And I think they found a way to get around his physical limitations to make the action interesting. He has this like tick about him where he kind of sees what's coming before it happens and can kind of plan out all the fights before it happens and then do it. So it's kind of cool to see how he breaks it down each time. And he's like the man of the people kind of character where he's always helping. He's one of those characters that like he has a phone line listening in. He hears something like someone needs help. He goes help them. That's the type of character he is. And we don't get a lot of movies like that anymore. I know this is like I believe Equalizer is a remake. There was an Equalizer series before, and then now they made this movie, and then there's another Equalizer series. But I like Denzel. I like the first 2 films, and I like that they're not going to try to overstretch the franchise because he is like getting to 70 years old, so start getting a little unbelievable that he's doing this. And it's cool that he's going to be in a different country this time. Each movie is set somewhere else, so I'm excited.
I keep getting the vibe of Liam Neeson in Taken of being, he's the guy, and we even see it in the trailer of, I'm giving you 9 seconds to leave everyone alone and get the hell out.
Yep.
Which in some ways too, it kind of goes back to like old westerns from like the 40s and 50s, where the guy in the bar of the old west that you don't want to mess with is the one who's absolutely still and motionless.
That's Equalizer. That's perfectly described it.
And it's like in real life too. Like if you go into a bar and there's a guy sitting at the corner by himself, that's the guy that's the Navy SEAL that you don't want to mess with. Like not the guy who's like kind of puffing up his own chest and like throwing it's the guy in the corner that just wants to be left alone. That's the guy that's the Navy SEAL, that's the Special Forces, all those that's the guy no one should mess with. And that's sort of the impression that I get from Denzel in the trailer, at least for the film.
Time is a big thing in the movie. It's funny that you brought that up in both films. Kind of like he's on the spectrum somehow, where like if he has a bad thought, he has to tap the counter 3 times, or if something bad's about to happen, he has to set his watch for a certain amount of time. There's a little aspect of that. He has OCD in the extreme way where like I have a friend that has it in a way where I remember one time he got up and he had a bad thought and he had to sit down and get up 3 times, like that kind of thing where it affects your motor skills and you have to kind of do things because you think something bad's going to happen. There's a little bit of an aspect like that there where it affects his action skills. So I think also that's really cool where it's like that slight representation there of people with a disability. So I think that's cool.
That is sort of an interesting thing too. Like, we don't generally think of people with special needs kicking ass in films and being an action star. So that's sort of a different take on the action film star genre. Sort of interesting too. She's all grown up now, but Dakota Fanning
Yeah.
showing up with Denzel, and I can't remember the title, but wasn't she with Denzel in a movie when she was a real little kid? I think, like,
Yes, she
I can't remember the
was in
title.
Man on Fire.
Yeah, so Dakota Fanning, she's not, she still acts. She's not
Yeah,
completely
she's
out
been
of the
around for a
business,
while.
but she doesn't do as many films now. So, are you
No.
excited to see Dakota Fanning showing up in the trailer for this? To me, it looks like she's not a huge part of the film. It sort of looks like she's showing up at the beginning or the end or something. Like she's the one with the Mission Impossible assignments or whatever. It sort of feels like that. Like, it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
she's the co-star of the film for whatever reason. But are you excited for Dakota Fanning showing up here too?
Yeah, it's just cool that they worked together so long ago, and now she's an adult, and they get to work on a different franchise, a different action movie. And I think Dakota Fanning is a talented actress. I think her sister is also a talented actress. I know that Dakota does music a lot, and that's why she's not in a bunch of different movies and shows all the time. She's the voice of Coraline, which is a great animated film, and I'm excited to see how much of the she's in the movie. If it's just not like, oh look, oh my god, they're pairing up again, and that's what they're doing to get people in, or she's actually in the plot.
And you said you already rewatched the first two Equalizer movies. Which is better of the two?
To me, I like the second one more. I think the third act is a lot stronger in the second one than the first one. They're both very similar in kind of the plot that's going on, but I kind of like the characters in the third act better in the second one.
Would you be surprised if Dakota Fanning shows up and starts kicking butt too?
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because that's kind of what the way action movies going, where they have to have like a sidekick, and now it's usually a female sidekick. So I can definitely see that. It would have made more sense for Chloe Grace Moretz, who was in the first movie, to come back and do it, because
Yeah,
we already know she has the ability to look like she kicks ass, and she was in the first movie. The whole movie was about him helping her, so that would have been cool. But it's fine. I like the fact that Dakota Johnson there, but it'd be cool if she's also kicking ass, and it would help since Denzel can't move his knees. So it'd be cool to have another action person in there to kind of like move around and do something else.
who would you rather see play Denzel's son in an upcoming movie? Just random movie of your choice. Who would you rather see cast as Denzel's son in a movie? John David Washington
His actual
or
son.
Jay Farrow doing Denzel Washington? Who would you rather see as Denzel's son in a random upcoming movie of your choice? Who would you rather see?
Can they just be twins and both be his kids? I love the idea of like John David Washington's serious son, the one that like is super serious and looking for his attention, and Jay Farrow is like the goofy one, but he's just really good at stuff, and that's the one he favors. And he's like, he's a goofball, but he's really good at everything. I love that idea.
And John David Washington's like, Dad, he's making fun of you all the time. He's like, I am not making fun of.
It would
Like,
be so.
I like him. We
Come
relate
on.
to each other.
Oh, and speaking of that, I gotta say, Antoine Fuqua, I'm really glad to see
Oh,
him doing action films. Another really good director, and I gotta bring it up because we don't get a lot of black directors doing action films. So I love that he got his own trilogy, and he's getting to finish it out. And he wants to do a prequel with Michael B. Jordan, which I'm like, he doesn't look like Denzel. That's gonna be weird.
yeah, that would be. Yeah, I love Michael B. Jordan, but yeah, I would struggle to see. You know what? That actually that'd be like seeing Average Joe. That'd be like seeing Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing a young Bruce Willis. Like, they don't really look alike, and they really don't have the same
They had to
personality.
do the whole thing with his
Yeah,
nose. I love that movie, but it was a weird choice.
yeah. I can't. Yeah, I can't see him playing a young version of Denzel. But hell, I mean, Jay Farrow and John David Washington could easily
Book it.
Yeah, and Antoine Fuqua. What's your favorite Antoine Fuqua film? Is it
Right now,
Training Day or is there another
I'm
one?
a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan, and I think that was one of the better boxing movies that we've gotten in the last couple of years, other
Yeah,
than like the Creed movies.
that was in the Jake Gyllenhaal really, really, really trying to be the new Robert De Niro phase of his career.
Yeah,
Doing Southpaw, then the Taxi Driver ripoff, Nightcrawler.
I like Nightcrawler though.
Back to back in there. But it's but when I was watching Nightcrawler though, it was exactly like when I was watching Gran Turismo. Like, yeah, but Days of Thunder did it better. Like this is a bad Taxi Driver ripoff.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, and I just I love Taxi Driver. So anything that compares by comparison pales by comparison. The Killer. The poster is apparently out now. I have yet to have see the poster. But, anytime you can have a film directed by David Fincher. And, David Fincher is just one of those directors that, when you think of directors, I think of Scorsese, I think Spielberg. But David Fincher as being the next generation afterwards, it's not even like I think of him first. But whenever you think of films that David Fincher has done, they're always at least good. And they're better than what they probably should be. He makes good films turn into great films. Even something like Social Network. David Fincher is amazing. So the fact that this is David Fincher, Michael Fassbender, Tilda Swinton. In reading the log line here, it's all about a near miss as an assassin battles his employers and himself. Like it's like I get nothing from the log line.
Yeah,
but it's to me this entire thing. And, if I knew more and if I had seen the trailer, it'd probably be higher on my list. But if it's The Killer, and it's Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton, I love everyone involved in this film. And even when you look at, like, the other people in here, Arliss Howard has done great stuff. Charles Parnell is the guy that, he's the guy in the background who adds gravitas for whatever reason in everything that he does. And he has a line or two here or there. But
solid character actor.
Yeah, it kind of shows up here and there. Still a few months away. It's coming out November 10th. But, David Fincher, Michael Fassbender, and Tilda Swinton, sort of a murderer's row of talented actors. Probably a little bit too early to be considered an Oscar hopeful type film. But
I think it might be coming out on Netflix as well. It might be a Netflix film.
Oh yeah, I forgot to. I'm still playing around with how I label everything, like on the lower third there. But yeah,
it's being produced by Brad Pitt's production company. Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, nice. Okay, love some Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt is such a. We don't really think of him as a producer, but he was a producer on 12 Years a Slave.
Plan B Entertainment, that's his production company, has a prolific track record. I'm not going to lie.
I haven't even seen the trailer. And I haven't even seen the poster. You're ahead of me there, too. So, are you a David Fincher fan?
Yeah, Fight Club, one of the best movies ever created. He just has he's another director that he has a feel, but he doesn't make the same movies over and over, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He has a feel to his things. I was talking about Gone Girl earlier. Seven's another one. He has a good list of movies that you can watch, and they're mystery movies, but it's done so well that you can watch it again, and even though you know what's coming, it's so good.
Well, it's funny too because you think Seven, like, what's in the box? That could easily be one of those like. It could easily be one of those like lines that everyone makes fun of, or like like Al Pacino, hoo-ah! Hoo-ah! Like that. Like, what's in the box? No, what's in the box? But when you actually see that scene, it's like, it's so... You know what's in the box.
So well. Yeah.
But it somehow, it just works, and it is interesting, too, with David Fincher, how dark his aesthetic is. Like, just, like, the subject matter, and just visually, his style of filmmaking. And yet, it's not as depressing as, like, a Zack Snyder type for whatever reason. And I know I jump on Zack Snyder a lot, and I jump on Zack Snyder fans even more than Zack Snyder. But he's the one.
You're coming for me, man. How could you?
He's the one Zack that I would not want to have on my channel. Every other Zack, other than Zack, no, I kid. If Zack Snyder wants to come on, he is more than welcome to come on. But I will ask him, though, about Batman v Superman. If you come on, Zack, I'm warning you. Zack Snyder, if you come on. Your favorite film from David Fincher?
I think it might be Gone Girl, but Fight Club is probably number 2.
It lives inside. What it is to be revealed. It's probably the thing. If it's in the title in a horror film, it's a thing that kills people. This is a film that it stars. I don't think I've ever seen any of these people in any other film, which is pretty common for horror films. And it's directed by Vishal Dutta, if I'm
Yeah.
pronouncing her name correctly, or his or her name correctly. So tell me about It Lives Inside.
So what drew me to this is that one of the star, Megan Surrey, is in a Netflix show that I love called Never Have I Ever. And she's very charismatic in it. And it's a show that I love. I'm a fan of the teen high school comedy shows, and she's in that. She's great. And then she's also in a show called Poker Face, where she ages up just a little tiny bit in that, and she's playing a little bit of a more of adult person. And I think that she's a talented actress. She doesn't get much to do in terms of like her side roles, but the little that she does get to do, she's charismatic. So I'm excited to see her be in a horror film, because you get to be dramatic and then you also get to be scared, which can show a range of emotions. And she is of, I think, either Indian or Pakistani descent. And it seems like this film is playing on a monster or mythological monster within that culture, which I've never seen before, at least an American film. And it's coming from a director from that part of the world. So I'm excited to see what's different about it. We got Talk to Me this year. That was an Australian horror film, and there were things in that culturally that makes that movie stand apart from other horror films. And I'm hoping that happens with this film as well.
Is this one where she's playing someone who's new to the country? Is she playing an immigrant herself, or is she
I think
playing
she's first
someone?
generation and her family are immigrants.
Gotcha. Because that's always an interesting thing too. When casting, does someone can or should they use whatever native accent
Hmm.
was her family's accent in past generations, or if she is American, should she just use her American accent? That's sort of an interesting
Yeah.
representation question that sort of is always interesting to me because I'm half Asian American. I'm half
Okay.
Japanese, but I'm fourth generation American both sides because I'm half Japanese, half Norwegian. So both sides of my family are equally likely to get in a boat, drink alcohol, and invade their neighbors. but both sides of my family have been in the country the same amount of time, so
Yeah.
so the idea of me trying to do a broken English Japanese American accent makes about as much sense as me doing a bad Norwegian accent.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an interesting thing of just demographics and casting and everything. And
I think that divide that you're talking about is part of the reason that enticed me about the film, because she's more American than the rest of her family. So they warn her about this thing and she's not believing it because, oh, it's just cultural myth or whatever. It's not real. It can't be. And she's not stupidly not paying. Well, it's not stupid. You don't know you're in a horror movie, so she's not paying attention till it comes. And the thing that's there seems like it's a parasite. And the way it is like when it's trying to feed on whoever it's trying to feed on. If you're trying to help that person, it kills you.
that's the great thing about horror films. If you can get a good simple, just a really simple conceit, if you can get a simple killing device or a simple character trait, and have a good talented storyteller, and because it's a horror film, it's very low budget, then the odds of it being a huge hit, if it's done right, so you can see sequels for the next 10 years, all made on a credit card, basically. So
Yeah.
hell, just look at Megan in the last year. How popular Megan got just from a real life woman dressed up in a really bad doll costume, and
Yeah.
yet the storytelling was done well enough. And you're right. You're also talking about Talk to Me. That's
Or
another
even
one.
like Boogeyman that came out early this year.
Yeah,
Like that
very
movie
simple
did really, really
conceits.
well.
Yeah, yeah. So I could totally see how this, if this is a film that's done right, I could totally see it falling into that category of successful generating. It lives inside 17 coming out in 2027. You were saying that she was in a Netflix show. What was the show that she was in?
Never Have I Ever.
Okay, nice. I
Yeah.
I've heard of it, have not seen it, but yeah, that's a show that gets a lot of attention and seems to be very popular. So always fun to see these young stars emerging and trying to go out and get a star vehicle for themselves. Like you think back to Jennifer Lawrence doing
Yeah.
the was it the cabin at the other side of the road or whatever. Like she's even Jennifer
Yeah.
Lawrence has done horror films in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting
Like
to
a rite of
see.
passage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which in and of itself is a sort of a horror film in real life,
Yeah.
just without the body count. But yeah, so hopefully this is a film that does well and that she can be a good star vehicle. Bigger and better things coming down the road. And I'm gonna humble brag a little bit here because I was able to go to CinemaCon. And I've been taught, anyone who watches my channel knows I've been humble bragging about going to CinemaCon this year. One of the quick snippets that we were afforded to at CinemaCon was of Anyone But You. And this is Glenn Powell from Top Gun Maverick, Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria,
Oh,
and The
yeah.
Voyeur, and The White Lotus. This is the two of them in a romantic comedy set in Australia. And there hasn't been a single poster out for it yet, and there hasn't been a trailer out for it. But the idea is it's a rom-com, it's a romantic comedy, and their arch nemeses reuniting after graduation years later for a destination wedding down in Australia. At CinemaCon in late April, they literally had just gotten off a plane in Las Vegas, and they went straight to Caesar's Palace, Celine Dion's Coliseum, for the presentation, and they had some quick footage there for all of the theater chain people that decide how many theaters are going for every film. That has me excited. There hasn't been any trailers or press coming out because everyone's on strike right now in Hollywood. But as far as rom-coms go, I'm not traditionally a huge rom-com fan. It's something I've gotten more into in the last couple of years. And anytime you get Sydney Sweeney, anything Sydney Sweeney's in, oh my God, that woman.
She's so good.
Yeah, and she's going to be in a Spider-Man movie coming up. She's going to be in Madam Spider or whatever
Madam
it is.
Web.
Madam Web.
Barbarella, I think she's doing a remake of that.
It wouldn't surprise me because if anyone can pull it off, being that talented as an actress, and not having any limits as to what she's willing to do on camera in terms of filmmaking, she is such a talented actress. And Glenn Powell, one of the better parts of Top Gun Maverick, is the one sort of very stereotypically cocky fighter pilot.
He reminds me of Chris Evans a lot. In terms of you can see that he can do more, but he's stereotyped so hard into like the suave guy who comes off as an asshole but has a heart of gold. And I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to be doing in this movie too.
And that poor guy, you're right. He's the guy that who do we want for this role? Well, we can't really afford Chris Evans. All right, get Glenn Powell's his agent on the line.
I'm really rooting for him to be Cyclops. I feel like he could knock that out of the park, and that'll be his role to make.
He kind of old to play Cyclops, though.
I guess, yeah. It depends on if they do the whole the X-Men's always been their thing, then he can be the right age. But if it's starting from scratch, then no. But it's funny that you brought this movie up. There's been a lot of drama coming from this movie before it even comes out. People have thought that Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell have been in a relationship, and Glenn Powell's married.
Oh,
so there's been a lot of crap going on with that going on because the stereotype is when you do a rom-com or you do a movie where you have a romantic relationship, usually it turns into something real. We've seen it happen a couple times, more times than we should have probably.
Method acting.
They got too serious into the method. So there's a lot of pictures where it feels like, oh, they look like a couple. So. And they haven't come out to say no. So a lot of people are like, oh my God. So I think it might be a little bit of a publicity stunt, but it's been fun.
They wouldn't be the first, set of good-looking actors who hook up on a movie set. You look at Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You look at
all the Spider-Man actors.
Yeah, exactly. Emma Stone.
One.
Yeah. Andrew Garfield, and honestly, too, going back a little ways, Halle Berry on the set of Monsters Ball.
Oh yeah,
her and ironically Angelina Jolie's actual real life husband Billy Bob, they hooked up on set. Yeah. So that would not surprise me at one iota if Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell method acting.
Yeah, we're in Australia.
Yeah, halfway around the world.
It's funny. I'm seeing there's another Never Have I Ever actor in this film. They're everywhere now.
Yeah.
Barnett.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
glad to see
Yeah.
that too.
You
Not
know,
super familiar with the director, Will Gluck.
yeah, he's a comedy director. I can't
Okay.
name any off the top of my head, but Will Gluck is one of the guys that like he's in that group of like maybe not so much the Will Ferrell, but like that next generation of directors, the Judd
Yeah.
Apatow kind of school of comedy of the.
Oh yeah.
I would need to look it up, and I can't in the
He
middle of
did
the.
Easy A, which I really
Oh
love.
yeah, speaking of Emma Stone,
He
Easy A.
did Friends with Benefits, which I really love
Yep.
too. He did an Annie movie, the 2014 film. Oh, that movie was okay.
Oh,
So he has a decent track record. So
Easy A alone. Easy A could have been easily forgettable.
yeah,
It's one that, it still gets played on television now 10, 12 years later. And it
yep,
really was, it's not surprising that it was a launch vehicle for Emma Stone
yep.
into Oscardom, A-list status, first guest in the Tonight Show, kind of stuff. So anyone but you. And I'm not a huge fan of the series, but insanely popular. This is, what, the 7th or 8th different Exorcist film? Tell me about The Exorcist Believer.
It's funny that you said that because I've never seen any of the other Exorcist films before this.
Really?
I'm
Not even the
planning
first
on
one?
doing not even the first one, but I'm planning to do a watch along on my channel before this comes out, so people could see my reaction to how scared I am. Because my brother, who's my older brother, he's one that like put me onto everything that I love, basically as a child. Power Rangers, anime, comic books, you name it. He put me into everything. He told me not to watch this film. He said it scared the shit out of him. So I've never watched. I was like, if it scares him, then I'm not watching it. But now I'm old enough. I've seen enough horror movies. I can watch it and I'm excited to check it out. But the trailer for this, I thought wasn't like something extraordinary, but it looked really good. It looks like it can be something really fun. It is part of a franchise. I'm more excited about the idea of it than maybe the actual movie. The actual movie might just be okay. But the idea of it being the next scary movie that can rival The Exorcist is a idea that I'm intrigued by, and it's going to get me into watching the original one. So that's why I'm kind of excited about it.
Don't have any pea soup before going to see The Exorcist.
No, I might not eat it at all.
It looks like a pretty decent cast too. Ellen Burstyn, who's been
Yeah.
in a little bit of everything. Jennifer Nettles, also Leslie Odom Jr. It kind of surprised me a little bit that we're getting name actors
And I think Ella Burstyn was in the second one or third one.
I don't know the extended history, but yeah, she's got a history there. The imagery from this trailer is really calling back to the original Exorcist from like 1972. The whole split pea soup and the yeah, that's my Exorcist impersonation, by the way. It's, it looks really well done. It is a very scary film too, by the way. The original. I'm not.
The original one.
There's a reason why going full Linda Blair is a catchphrase. Like, I don't know. Like, did you ever watch Glee?
I've seen parts of it. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite pop culture references. One of the characters on the show goes, "Oh yeah, I went full Linda Blair last night. Yeah, we had food poisoning." So your older brother, is he a huge horror fan as well?
Yeah, he's a huge horror fan. But something about that movie, he doesn't like ghost stuff though. I feel like it's too real for him when it comes to like possession and ghosts and demons and things like that. So that part of horror he kind of stays away from. But like slashers and other kind of horror films like that, that's kind of his wheel bag. It's just scared the shit out of him.
So more Freddy Krueger, less demonic possession kind of horror.
Right on the head.
Is your taste in horror films sort of similar in that vein too?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of possession film. Hereditary scared the shit out of me. I love the movie, but I was like, oh no, I don't like what I see.
Ari Aster, yeah, very unique taste in filmmaking. Because yeah, Midsummer was quirky, but really, really weird in its own right.
Yeah.
But yet so well done. Like, yeah, because that's one that you don't even like. I didn't even know what I had heard the word of mouth about Midsummer, but I didn't quite know what I was watching. And then even at the end, you're like, it was something. I don't know what it was, but it was good. It was something.
And I watched the interview with him, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't expect people to be scared about movies. They're all comedies." I'm like, what? This is not funny. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is a comedy about Hereditary?
Yeah.
Did you know you seen Hereditary?
No, I've not. I've seen Midsummer, and I
Okay.
saw Beau's Afraid. I need to watch it. It's on Max, and he's only done 3 films, so I definitely need to watch it at some point here.
Oh no, I think he did 4. He has
Did
Something
you
About the
4?
Johnsons, which is another weird horror film. Oh my god. I was like, oh, Ari Aster, let me go check it out. And I was like, oh, what was he doing with this first film of his? This is disgusting.
Hopefully less full-body costumes in Hereditary than were in Beau's Afraid.
No, none of that.
That was very disturbing on a lot of levels. Like, what the heck am I watching?
The attic scene?
The anatomy scene. The male anatomy, full size, body size, yeah.
Oh my god.
You're like, what in the... oh, man, Guy got issues. And not just Beau has issues. I think Ari has issues. Yeah.
He's telling us something to cry for help.
Yeah. I think filmmaking is his therapy. So, yeah, that comes out perfect time. I'm assuming Friday the 13th on October 13th. This is Love at First Sight, and I have seen the trailers for this. Haley Lou Richardson, Ben Hardy, who I've seen before, but it's one of those things where you've seen the face, you've heard the name, but I don't really associate the name with the face as of yet. But it's a pretty simple premise. It's like a lot of other rom-com premises. It's a very simple premise, but they get on a plane. They fly from New York to London. They're both good-looking people. They sit next to each other. He has a charming British accent. And, of course, he gives her his number. She loses her phone, and they have to somehow meet up and let love happen. It's a rom-com, but there is something where you take talented actors, and Haley Lou Richardson is such a talented actress. She hasn't really broken through second guest on The Tonight Show level of fame, but she's not the first guest on The Tonight Show level of fame.
Yeah.
I still remember watching Haley Lou Richardson in The Bronze, which was the sort of the Tanya Harding wannabe, but set in the gymnastics world.
Melissa Roche.
Melissa Roche, that's right. Melissa Roche's movie that she did with her husband, and Haley Lou Richardson was the up-and-coming sweetheart gymnast in that film. So she was great in that film. She's really good, and usually in supporting roles or smaller independent film. This, I believe, is a Netflix film, and it's coming out on September 15th on Netflix. So this is one that I think could be a sneak hit. And I'm really rooting for her because she also did a streaming movie on HBO Max called Unpregnant, which was a little controversial given the subject matter. Really talented actress, very funny, and I love the idea of seeing her in a rom-com, focusing more on the rom than the end, like Unpregnant was. But
and more in a leading role, like you're saying, finally seeing her more in a leading role. I feel like there's a couple of actresses that maybe have her look that's a little ahead of her, and that's probably why she doesn't get it. But she's probably the more talented one out of the people that are ahead of her. I'm a fan of her too. I'm hoping that this is like a breakout thing for like if people find her on Netflix and just fall in love with her.
And sort of funny too, just looking at the cast here. Jamila Jamil, also a very talented actress, but Rob Delaney. Rob Delaney, for anyone who's seen Deadpool 2, was the guy that Deadpool thought was catfishing him because he shows up a little bit out of shape and with a porn star mustache. So when they're coming up with X-Force, Rob Delaney's the guy that Deadpool calls Sugar Bear. It meets a very quick end, but that's Rob Delaney as well, and he shows up there on the...
Haley Steinfeld's also on this, who I'm a fan of as well. She was in Bumblebee. She's now one of the Hawkeyes. And Robert Sheehan, he's in the Netflix show, The Umbrella Academy. He's in that show.
Yeah, great show. Elliot Page and also Justin H. Min, who was in After Yang and got nominated for a couple Oscars. So Umbrella Academy, very underrated superhero show. Underrated. All the talented people across the board, another Netflix type film. So I'm trying to get in the spirit of trying to enjoy all genres of film. Trying to get more into rom-coms because that's definitely an area of film that I haven't gotten into traditionally as much in the past. So Love at First Sight. Modern cell phone adaptation of getting on a plane and going places. That's my number 10 movie. Tell me about Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka in Wonka.
Timothée Chalamet has 2 roads ahead of him. Depending on what he does, he's either going to be the next Leonardo DiCaprio or he might be the next Johnny Depp. And both of those are really great, but I would rather be Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not going to lie. just for like consistency purposes, like Johnny Depp's career kind of just like started doing similar things in a way where people are like, oh, you're playing another weird person.
And if Timothy Chalamet ends up dating Amber Heard after this, we know which road he took.
And they're saying he was dating like a Kardashian, which is like an equivalent of that.
Oh,
They suck the life
that's even
force from
worse.
anyone. Yeah, it is.
That's even
Rather
worse.
they ever heard and just tell her, don't poop. Don't do that in the bed. They just suck the life force out of anybody that they're dating. But
Yeah.
he's super talented. Tom Holland has kind of put a shadow a little bit on him. Timothy's like Christian Bale and Tom Holland's like Leonardo DiCaprio in terms of like they'll go for Tom first before they go for Timothy for a role. Like he was up for Spider-Man and they picked Tom. But Timmy, he's so talented. I think he's the more talented actor. I didn't really care for Bones at all, but he was great in that. Call Me by Your Name, or the Greta Gerwig films that he's been in. He's just a really talented actor. He's really good at playing sad people, and I think that
hit it on the nose right there.
Yeah. And I think the
it's on
Willy
his
Wonka role,
acting epitaph there. He's really good at playing sad people.
Even in Dune, like I love the first Dune, but he's playing a sad boy. He's playing the sad savior.
If he ever smiles, he probably smiles all the time in real life and no one recognizes it. So he probably doesn't have to have any security at all if he smiles. No one recognizes him.
Hold up. You're not Timothy Chalamet. Where's your grin? Like, where's your upside down grin? He's one of my favorite young actors, and I think that the trailer convinced me. Because when they first did it and they showed the picture, like, oh, he looks really cool. Maybe too cool to be Willy Wonka. But then when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. He kind of has the flavor of the original actor. He kind of looks like him when they did the side-by-side pictures. And I think that this will give him an opportunity to break out of that sad boy persona and show his range as maybe doing comedic stuff, because he was on SNL and he did a great job with comedic bits. So I'm really excited to see what they do here. You know, I was like, why would he need a prequel? But they convinced me that this might be a good reason to do it.
And it's such a tough thing, especially when you want to channel Gene Wilder. I think in some ways, if he would have channeled more of the Johnny Depp type character, that would be a lot easier because, you know, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory it's one of those iconic movies that's now 52 or 53 years old, but it's timeless. And Gene Wilder is famous for doing lots of films, tons of other films, but I would argue that he's most famous for playing Willy Wonka. And his take on Willy Wonka is it's so iconic and mysterious and haunting, and yet still fun and appropriate for kids. So the idea of Timothy Chalamet as a really talented young actor taking on that mantle as a prequel, and, you know, we all have mixed feelings about prequels, and it's such a daunting acting task that I wonder how this movie's going to actually do. Because it has a decent-sized budget, it looks like. And anytime you can do a prequel and have the introduction to characters, it's always a risky proposition.
What information are you giving me now that I needed to know?
We've already had a full trailer out for it, and it's, if I'm totally honest, it's one that I'm still digesting. You know, because it is about a guy with chocolates. You gotta digest it a little bit more. It's not just a pop and go. It's chocolate. It's not cotton candy. My God, if there's a Willy Wonka version of cotton candy, that'd be even more. That'd be crazier. If I'm being honest, I don't really know what to think of him doing a slight Gene Wilder impersonation, but he's such a talented actor. The fact that this is a film that's coming out December 15th, right before Christmas, and it has the studio's confidence, it has an Oscar caliber actor, and the balls.
Strong director.
Yeah, and the fact that they have the balls to go straight after Gene Wilder, not in a challenging way, but having the balls to channel his character, his take on Willy Wonka, is such an amazing thing. And then when you look at the cast for this film, the fact that we've got Keegan-Michael Key, we've already talked about Keegan-Michael Key, Olivia Colman, who's an Oscar-nominated actress, and of all
Olivia
people,
Colman.
and Rowan Atkinson, comedy legend, and the big one here, Hugh Grant, Mr. Rom-Com himself, as the Oompa Loompas. Like, I can't wait to see that. The charming English gentleman as an Oompa Loompa.
He was so great in Dungeons and Dragons earlier this year, a very underrated fantasy film that we got.
Oh, yeah, yep.
He was a great villain in that, so I'm excited. I'm down for his renaissance. You know, everybody's getting renaissances these days.
Yeah,
I'm down for the Hugh Grant renaissance,
the Grantissance, if you will. And he was also in the Guy Ritchie. He was in a Guy Ritchie flick Operation Fortune, and he was the villain in Operation Fortune. And he went full character actor as the villain. And it was great. It was like,
still gotta watch that.
Is that? And it was not that it was like the perfect Guy Ritchie film, but it was a fun Guy Ritchie film, and Hugh Grant pops up in a lot of Guy Ritchie films. But December 15th, December's gonna be packed this year.
Oh yeah, Warner Brothers literally has, I think, 3 or 4 films coming out in 12-day span, back to back to back, which makes no sense to me. You're making your own movies fight against each other? That's silly.
Well, maybe the studios learned something from Barbenheimer. So maybe if they're different enough, you actually want restaurants. Yeah, you actually want them. Yeah. You actually want them all kind of coming out at the same time. Now, this is an interesting one because it is straight to Apple TV+. This is a rom-com. It's more drama, I think, than comedy, but it's a single mom in Ireland with her teenage son, and they struggle financially. She wants to do something nice for him because he's getting in trouble, and one more strike and he gets to be sent off to juvie. So she goes and buys him a guitar. He comes home and he's like, "What is this crap?"
What am I supposed to do with this?
Guitar away. So she's like, they don't have a lot of money, so she's like, all right, well, I got this guitar, I can't take it back. So she starts taking guitar lessons, and music comes into their lives, and we actually have a pretty decent cast here. We get Eve Henson, who I've not seen before. She's the single mom. You have Joseph Gordon-Levitt showing up as a YouTube Fiverr-type guitar coach, and Jack Rayner as the dad, I believe. And then Orland
he's playing dads now? That's insane.
Yeah, it's a little depressing, the fact that all of these people... Well, hell, like, looking at Gran Turismo, seeing that Ginger Spice is now mom, or playing mom.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a little depressing as to how old a lot of these actresses are getting. I know the math makes sense, but damn it. When Sydney Sweeney starts showing up as a mom in movies, we know that we're going to be really old at that point. So,
yeah, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah. But this, we've seen this a lot before, single moms, the complications. This is a film in Ireland, so you get the Irish accents, you get a different perspective than I think we get from mostly American-produced films. And, throw in average Joe, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in for a little bit of romance, a little bit of distance learning, a little bit of the cyber era of being one world on the internet. And you get Flora and Son. And the son he's an emerging musical talent as well. She plays guitar. He ends up being a composer of sorts, a DJ, basically. It's hard to describe, but it's one that looks like it has a ton of heart. So Flora and Son comes out September 22nd. Have you ever seen anything with Eve Hewson?
I was looking her up, and her face looks familiar, but I actually have not. She's been in some stuff that I've meant to watch, but I've just never watched. Bridge of Spies, Paper Year, Robin Hood, all things I've been meant to watch, and I just never watched.
It's one of those two. I probably have seen her someplace before, but she just really stands out in the trailer. To do a good job emoting in a trailer without being a downer, that's not an easy task. The fact that she goes in those well-worn heels still comes out
fresh.
Yeah, in a trailer, to me that's a sign of good acting, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it's good. Your number 8 film is another Michael Fassbender film. It's interesting. It's about American Samoa. It's about soccer. It's a biopic about an actual real-life soccer team and soccer coach. Tell me about Next Goal Wins.
Yeah, so I saw the trailer for this when I went to go see Mystery Movie Monday at Regal. I saw this trailer and I was like, this looks funny. I love Taika when he's doing original ideas. When he's adapting stuff, he kind of doesn't know that he needs to adapt. He's just doing whatever he usually does in his movies, and he's just like, I guess I can take this idea from there, but I'm not gonna really adapt. So when he's one of those actors that needs to make their own kind of original movies, a Jojo Rabbit, things like that. And this looks like it's gonna be with a lot of heart. Earlier this year, Champions came out, which is a kind of a similar premise. With Woody Harrelson, and I really enjoyed that film. It was really fun and funny, and I think Taika's a superior director than the one that directed that, and I can see him having Michael Fassbender, who has comedic chops, but doesn't get, another actor that gets kind of typecast into being the serious straight man all the time, being able to do something more comedic here and introducing us to some actors from a culture that we don't get a lot. That's kind of my thing where I'm like, ooh, Samoa, we don't The only Samoan actor I know is The Rock. And it's just like he's the most famous one. And other than that, if you don't watch Hawaii Five-0, you never see him.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear this true story, and how he brings the life to it, and how fun it is, and how accurate it stays to the regular story, and if the soccer is fun. I think a lot of these sport movies forget to make the sport fun, and they focus so much on the dramatic part.
Yeah, well, and look, this is one too. It's about the American Samoa football team or
Yeah.
soccer team to you and me, the football team to the rest of the world, who loses a match 31-0. And for anyone who's not familiar with soccer's usually like baseball. It's like 2-1, 3-2. So to lose an international soccer match 31-0.
You're terrible.
Yeah, and it's just at a certain point, the mercy rule should really—it's like Little League. The mercy rule should really probably be adopted at a certain point. So it's a little bit bad news bears, a little bit Mighty Ducks is what it sounds like. And I'm with you.
That's what it is. That
Yeah.
the Mighty Ducks feel.
Yeah, and I love Taika Waititi because he's a guy who made a comedy by playing Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
And he did the world's hardest thing of making Thor into a comedy movie in Thor Ragnarok and proving everyone wrong, and then doing the world's worst MCU movie in Thor Love and Thunder with all the money and all the street cred. So the fact that I don't know if this is his first movie following Thor Love and Thunder, but in terms of production schedule, but this is the first movie of his that I've seen after Thor Love and Thunder.
This is his first directing film he's directed after Thor Love and Thunder.
So the fact that he's come back from Asgard, he's come back down to Earth, he's getting a camera, he's getting a soccer ball, and a bunch of not really well-known actors, and putting Michael Fassbender in there. I love the idea of this film. Taika Waititi, back to basics. You know what this kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of Jon Favreau after Iron Man comes out and becomes a huge hit. So Iron Man 2, MCU launches the most profitable franchise in movie history, and then he does Cowboys and Aliens. And not an awful film, but it's not Iron Man. It's not like an all-time classic. And how do you fail with James Bond and Han Solo in a sci-fi western? And again, it's not like it's a failure, but what was Jon Favreau's reaction to that? Back to basics, and he makes Chef, which is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. So I think the critical acclaim, or the lack of critical acclaim, of Thor: Love and Thunder, I wonder if that was sort of a slap in his face creatively, and this is sort of a back to basics for Taika Waititi, because I love him, and even in a small role in Free Guy, I love him in that role. So
in that movie,
yeah, he's so many great lines in there where he's like the a-hole tech billionaire, tech bro guy.
Yeah.
So I love Taika Waititi and pretty much everything he does. So I love the idea of this film too. So, and plus, it's not Fox anymore, but Searchlight Pictures. It's it's right up there with A24 in terms of being great indie studios. So next goal wins. What's your favorite sports movie?
Oof. That's a loaded question there. To the Google, so I don't forget anything. Sport movies.
Well, there's so many different choices, because you got like the Mighty Ducks type films, and you got ones like Champions.
You got the boxing films.
And you got
the combat ones, at least.
Yeah, and then you got like sports comedies like Major League. So what would be like some of your what is your go-to sports movie when you want to watch a sports movie?
So I'll say recently, obviously the Mighty Ducks is something that's like a comfort film for me. I'll say the Creed films as well. The Fighter with Christian Bale is something that's up there. Hustle, which recently came out on Netflix, and I thought Adam Sandler should have been nominated for that because he was fantastic. I brought up Southpaw earlier.
Yep.
And I think like Deep Blue Sea, which is like a water film. One that's not like really well made, but it's just a childhood favorite for me, is Johnny Tsunami.
Interesting. Never even heard of that before. Who's in that one?
that's that nobody it's just one of those it's one of those Disney movies that they used to do like a sport film and just make it really extreme and emotional, and they'll add like Johnny Tsunami was in Hawaii and it was playing on that culture, and it was just a fun film at that time. It was like Johnny Tsunami, Brink, like, which was a skateboard film, and a couple other films that they did back to back to back. That was just a part of my childhood that I love. They're not super well made, but I could go back and watch those and it just feel right, like right back as a child. So
You're
those would
right.
be some famous ones.
Time and place are always huge for watching movies. And yeah, you go back and rewatch it. It may or may not be the greatest, but your memories of them are always key for any kind of future
Yeah.
film.
Oh, and Fighting with My Family, really, really underrated
Oh,
one.
yeah, that was the one about the WWE from a couple
Yeah,
years ago.
Paige.
That
Yep,
Yeah, that was Florence Pugh kind of really came out of the
that was like a breakout.
yeah. I still haven't seen that one, but I need to. This is another biopic. Car maker Enrico, I think it's Enzo Ferrari. We all know
Adam
Ferrari
Driver film.
cars. Yeah, we all know about cars and Ferraris, $200,000, $300,000 cars. And this is the biopic about Ferrari. This is Michael Mann, and I am a huge Michael Mann fan, even though I don't. He's another one of those guys that he's sort of the classic Hollywood filmmaker. So, like, whenever you watch
Yeah.
a special feature on his movies, he is the director. So, whenever they do like location scouting, he has like 20 people loaded on a bus, and they all go out and look for like the coolest spots in town or location to shoot scenes. Like, he's that guy that does, like he did Miami Vice, and he's done so many just great dramas in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. So anytime Michael Mann is coming up with a biopic, you get a cast that including, and I'm not a huge fan of his, but Adam Driver,
Okay.
he's an Oscar-nominated actor. I go back and forth on him, but Shailene Woodley, Penelope Cruz, Patrick Dempsey, the list goes on. And when you throw all of these talented people in a Michael Mann film, in a biopic about a sports car pioneer, it probably should be higher on my list, but the fact that this is a Christmas Day release, to me, screams that this is a film that the studio, the filmmakers, everybody thinks could be a potential Oscar contender, nominations galore coming out, as well as one that has a popular appeal to be released on Christmas Day. Adam Driver trying to do his best to look cool in shades. I don't know if it's working or not, but
yeah, that
talented
is
actor.
weird. I feel like after the cinematography and everything's done with the film to make them look better, it'll look good, but the cast, the set photos don't look great.
Yeah, and look, I love Shailene Woodley, so if she's the love interest in this film, that's another good step forward.
Noomi Rapace, I think is an underrated actress that's been climbing up the ranks for me. She's pretty good.
Yeah, and she was the original girl with the dragon tattoo, Noomi Rapace.
Yeah.
And totally underrated in the Alien prequel, brain farting in the name.
Prometheus,
yeah. Totally underrated actress. But yeah, love Noomi Rapace. Ferrari Christmas Day, my number 7. This is Marshawn Lynch. This is high school girls trying to hook up. We see so many films like American Pie where the guys are trying to get laid before prom. This is
setting up parties.
Yeah, this is the girl version of that, but it's a high school fight club with girls.
Yes.
And for some reason, Marshawn Lynch. Tell me about Bottoms.
Yeah, so what attracted to me to this film at first, before I even heard the premise, is Three of the Stars, which is Rachel Sano, who I'm a fan of. She was in Shiva Baby. She was in Bodies, Bodies, a A24 film that I had a lot of fun with. Ayo Edebiri, I'm probably saying her last name incorrectly. She is in this fantastic show on Hulu called The Bear. And she's phenomenal in that. And she's also in this show on Hulu called Elementary, where she has a small role, but she's great in it as well. And she was in Across the Spider-Verse as a voice. So she's having a pretty good year, and I'm a fan of her. And then Havana Rose Liu, who's not super huge, and I only seen her one thing, but the one thing I saw her in, which was like a Hulu movie, she did a really good job. So I'm excited to see those three get together. But then saw the trailer, I heard the premise. It's two loser lesbians, which we've seen something similar with loser guys doing something like this, but loser lesbians who can't get girls, and they set up a fight club because the girls have been getting picked on, and they're using this opportunity to teach them how to defend themselves, but also hit on them. And I was like,
Figuratively and literally at the same time.
yeah. And it's like, this is so problematic, but I love it. And like, we've been getting summer flicks like this over and over and over. No Hard Feelings. Love that movie. Super problematic. Joyride. Love that movie. Super problematic. Strays. Love that movie. Super problematic. So I'm ready for another like problematic film that has a lot of heart. The thing that all those three movies have is a lot of heart, so it kind of erases the problematic parts of it. And I'm excited to see, because this had like the highest rated audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It was like debuted at like 100%, which never happens, and it looks really funny. That's the thing. It looks like a good time. It looks like it's gonna be really stupid, and I just want to turn off my brain and have fun.
And interesting too, Kaya Gerber, aka Cindy Crawford, or Cindy Crawford's daughter, basically a
Yeah.
lookalike for Cindy Crawford, also in this
Oh
film.
yeah.
And interesting too, Rachel Sennett is the co-writer, along with writer-director Emma Seligman. And I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with Emma Seligman's work. It's a really good point. It's a film that if a man were to direct this film, it would be massively problematic. And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways, the fact that this is taking a potential trouble spot and turning it on its heels and giving a little bit of opportunity to a writer-director who I've never heard of before, I think that's brilliant. And just the perspective alone it's one of those that I think probably a lot of male directors probably went, this sounds funny, but I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I'm not going to be Harvey Weinstein. I
Or
think
it's probably like a straight to DVD movie that we never heard of.
yeah. So the potential here, I think it has a lot of potential, and just the trailers alone look so much fun. I'm really looking forward to this film as well. And yeah, Marshawn Lynch, as the idea of
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch running a high school fight club, and it's a girls' high school fight club, is just
Amazing.
yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Love it across the board. My number 5 is a British film, but it's a British film from a Persian perspective. The Persian version. And it's about a huge Persian immigrant family to Britain. It's not a cast that I've really seen much before, but this is a big family of highly motivated first-generation Brits who work very hard, are financially successful, but it's a huge family that struggles with traditional values versus modern Western society, and our lead actress is a lesbian in a family that, has traditional values. They're progressive, they're hardworking, but she's a lesbian in a traditional family, and she gets pregnant. So
That's a lot. That's a
the
lot going on there.
the plot thickets. So how does a lesbian get accidentally knocked up when she's not tried to get pregnant when she's a doctor herself? So
Wow.
that's
wow.
the
It's a
premise.
lot to unpack in a comedy.
Yeah. especially when it's really really fast paced. None of the actors I've heard of before, and I didn't quite. I relatively well prepared, but I didn't quite get that far as having the actors here up on this part. But the Persian version, British filmmaking from a Persian perspective. Stories of families immigrating from countries to countries. As Americans, I think we tend to think of that being like an American type story, but I love seeing those types of stories, but this one sort of from a different perspective. All the British accents too, again. The
If
Persian,
it's done right.
yeah, the Persian version comes out October 13th. So
Kind of reminds me of this movie that came out earlier this year called Polite Society that a lot of people didn't talk about.
yeah, that was one that I didn't quite see. It was sort of in and out of theaters, even the indie film theaters. It was sort of in and out. But yeah, Polite Society was one that I need to watch it too, and that's another one that I'm sure it's on streaming now, but it came out right before summer, so the fact that I didn't see it opening week, it kind of got lost in the shuffle for me. But yeah, Polite Society.
So much stuff came out.
Yeah, and Polite Society, another one, a family of Middle Eastern descent in Britain, and some of the culture clash stuff going on.
And that one, woman.
Yeah,
like, you never see that.
yeah, it looks so good, and I need to make the time to sit down and watch it. So this one, this one doesn't look exactly like that. It looks slightly different. Polite Society looked a little bit more comedic. This one looks a little bit more drama comedy. But both of them look brilliant, and super excited to see both. So this is
Yeah.
the Persian version. Your number 6 is, it's a legacy. It is what's left over of the DCEU. It is Jason Momoa, who is, this is basically the highest. The original was the highest, one of the highest grossing films in the DC universe, the DCEU, and one of the best received.
One.
Yeah, and honestly, the production design was probably should have been nominated for an Oscar if it wasn't.
Oh yeah, the effects and everything.
Yeah, so the fact that we're almost a full year after the change in the Snyderverse, this is the last of the big movies to come out for the DCEU. So tell me about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, or Aquaman.
I'm a big fan of James Wan as a director. He made Malignant, which I will always praise him because that movie is insane. I really liked the first Aquaman. A lot of people are like, why did it make $1 billion? Because it looked amazing. Like, what do you mean? It's not Avatar amazing, but it's a different art style. I think that it was really fun. I think it was a simple premise. It was an origin story that we got that was just done in a fast-paced manner with colorful characters. It added a little horror in there. And I feel like what James Wan wanted to do, he just wants to double and triple down on all the things that worked in the first one. And Jason Momoa was a better actor now than he was when that first movie came out.
Yeah.
He is. Like, I remember I rewatched Aquaman. I was like, ooh, some of these scenes are rough when he's not being a aqua bro. when he's trying to be dramatic, I'm like, ooh, he's not emoting really well at all. But I've seen him in other things now where I'm like, oh no, he either James Wan didn't know how to direct him, or he actually just became better actor. I think that he's a better actor. That means Aquaman 2 could be a better movie if they just hold on to the things that worked.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys too that if you really think about Jason Momoa, there's those guys like Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves. There are guys that are so good looking that it's almost distracting. So they have to have wild caveman hair. They have to dress down, if you will, because they're so good looking. It's a little distracting. And I think people forget that Jason Momoa is funny. He's a talented actor who's funny. And because he's so good looking and he's got so many muscles and tattoos and got great hair, I think everyone just sort of assumes that, you think about the first Aquaman movie, that the introduction to his character is 3 different shots in the same scene of him flexing and posing. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, okay, one hero shot, but, we get it. It's Jason Momoa. He's handsome.
Yeah.
But, he is a talented actor, too, on top of that. Like, He's the one guy with no experience that came out of Baywatch Hawaii. He came out of cable TV in Stargate Atlantis. Yeah. So he's a guy who has put in his time on his craft.
1,000 hours.
Yeah, working on television shows, working up in Canada, and not just famous for marrying Lisa Bonet.
That's like the least of his accomplishments, which is crazy.
which is a pretty good accomplishment in and of itself. Yeah. But he's a very talented actor, and I'm a little disappointed that here he gets the last final release date for the DCEU, and we already know that he's not coming back in Aquaman as James Gunn moves forward. I know a bunch of people have talked about him potentially playing Lobo, who, if you look up Lobo, if you Google Lobo in DC, it looks like Jason Momoa. If Jason Momoa didn't work out for 6 months and just ate donuts. So, that might be an excuse for him to be more comfortable with the lifestyle in terms of not having to work out. But, he's a guy that always...
feelings on him being Lobo, because I've always imagined Lobo as, reimagined as, a Spanish biker.
Oh,
like a Papi Chulo. What's his name? Danny Trejo, I think.
Yeah.
I think would be an amazing version of, Lobo. Just super serious, just real Spanish and hilarious. I think I got that feel from the Superman animated series because it was a Spanish voice actor who voiced him in that, and I always felt like they could play on that a little bit and take on some of the culture aspects and stereotypes there, and just kind of turn him on the head with Lobo and make him a badass. But Jason Momoa is going to do great if he does end up being Lobo, though.
And that would be interesting too, because you're right. He's as far as I know, he's not Hispanic. He's Pacific Islander.
Yeah, he's
as
supposed
far
to
as I
carry
can
on that.
tell. So that would be an interesting take, sort of recasting the character. I'm aware of Lobo, but I don't really know much about that character, so I don't know if he's a good fit or not. But just Googling Lobo in DC Comics, the character looks like Jason Momoa. So
No, he will be a good fit. It's like Deadpool in space.
okay,
That's Lobo.
I like Deadpool in space. I like that. I
Yeah.
love that. That is a great thing. And it's funny too because this is why our numbers are a little bit off, because I also have Aquaman 2 on my list. I have it a little bit lower. When you have a president that doesn't win re-election, that 3 or 4 months before he leaves office is called lame duck session. So this is sort of the DC Comics or the DC EU version of the lame duck thing.
Yeah.
They've already spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the final 4 films of the DCEU, and the first 3 of those 4 massively underperformed at the box office. And, for good reason. I liked The Flash, I liked Black Adam, I haven't seen Blue Beetle yet, I still need to watch that, but that one also failed. 25 million, I think, the first week for a superhero film.
Yeah.
And I know they've talked about potentially having Blue Beetle, if it does well in theaters, it could be in the new DC universe, but I doubt it. So normally a superhero of this kind of budget and quality in terms of Aquaman,
Caliber. Yeah.
it would normally be a lot higher on my list, but the fact that we're kind of limping across the finish line, sadly, for the DCU.
Yeah.
So that's why it's lower. It's number 15 on my list. But yeah, I love, and I'm really curious though. I am really, really, really curious to see what they do with the story and how they wrap it up. And
Yeah.
the fact that we have Ben Affleck showing up a little bit here, credited on IMDb as showing up in Aquaman 2 when he's already been replaced in the Flash movie. So the continuity is a little wonky, I think, a little bit here. But
Yeah.
still, it's a big superhero film. As much as people make fun of Aquaman, oh, if you don't stop that, me and my fish are going to come over there, but that first film was so visual. It was so striking in its visuals, even with Amber Heard as Mara. Yeah,
She did a great job in the first film.
Yeah, she did. I'm really excited though to see Yahya Abdul-Mateen II come back. He was great as the new Morpheus, and people forget, but he was in the Baywatch movie as the cop on land in short shorts riding a 4-wheeler. That was him, and kind of giving Dwayne The Rock Johnson crap as Mitch Buchanan. So, he's
Dr.
very
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Also.
Yes.
Did a great job as that. And he's going to be Wonder Man. He's swapping over to the MCU.
Oh, interesting. So, very, very talented guy. And I think trying to shoehorn him into Aquaman 1, I think, was a mistake. I wish they would have just stuck with the
Ocean Master.
Yeah, Ocean Master character. That storyline, I think, was more compelling, especially as an origin story where you're trying to establish Aquaman as the king of Atlantis. I'm really curious to see what they do in this sequel. I'll be curious to see if Randall Park shows up again in his small cameo role. So we get Agent Wu from the MCU showing up in whatever character that was. I don't even know the character that he played, but that's sort of that wannabe bad guy, sycophant of the villain superheroes or supervillains. Yeah, all that, Aquaman 2, looking forward to it. If the MCU would have had a better Phase 4 and better beginning to Phase 5, I think would be a lot higher on both of our lists. Brie Larson, Oscar winner Brie Larson. This is Teyana Paris. One of my favorite MCU streaming shows in Ms. Marvel. This is The Marvels.
I'm really excited for it. It's not higher because I know what's about, but I don't know what's about. Like we know the gimmick, but we don't know the story. That first trailer was so much fun, and I haven't seen an MCU trailer that's just fun. They're usually kind of down and despair and trying to be epic. And this was just like, we have a Saturday morning cartoon gimmick. We're bringing it to live action, something you'll see in the comics, and it's goofy, but we're going to make it work, and it's working. And I think they have the right 3 actresses to do this. I think pairing Brie Larson up with Teyana Paris, who has shown that she has comedic chops. If you've seen They Cloned Tyrone this year, which is one of my favorite movies of the year, and Iman Vellani, who's about to absolutely steal the show. I'm 100% sure, even if you don't like this movie, then you're like, I like her. I need to see more of her because she's the best casting in the MCU since Tom Holland as Peter Parker.
For anyone who hasn't watched Ms. Marvel, she does the perfect innocence without being naive. And also, we were talking a little bit about immigrant stories. The story of her family, it's an interesting perspective that this story is told from, and that the series, it's only 5 or 6 episodes. I really think it could have been 8 or 9 episodes the way they told the story.
Should have been 9 episodes, yeah.
She does such a great job of being, energetic and optimistic.
But not annoying.
Yeah, and not annoying. And not, it's almost like Christopher Reeve playing Superman. Obviously different universe, different characters, but I think so many people get so superheroed out that it's easier to relate in some ways to The Dark Knight and I'm Batman. And I love Batman, but the dark and the depressing and the angry. To me, I find that a lot harder to relate with, just personally. I like the Christopher Reeve as Superman. I like Chris Evans as Steve Rogers
character. Yeah.
And to be just honest and forthright and optimistic and believing that good things can happen, even in spite of fighting evil and being a crime fighter. I think all of that, you get all of that plus a little bit of the naivete of youth, of the energy of youth, the wanting to do good and believing that good things can happen. You get all of that along with an immigrant story with Iman Vellani.
Family was great.
Yeah, and Ms. Marvel, and her mom and dad, it's, they're kind of conservative, so they don't want her showing up. So she was such the shining star, in my opinion, of all the Marvel streaming shows. And to see her kind of get big screen treatment with an Oscar winner and with an emerging star in Teyonah Parris. I'm really looking forward to her in this. And yeah, that is freaking hilarious when she switches place with Captain Marvel, and she's like, where am I? She looks over, and the cat eats the bad guy, and she's like, oh my God, what is...
That was such a genuine reaction to, that's how I would react too. Because she's never been... She's like Spider-Man in terms of she's the neighborhood hero.
Yeah.
And she's getting thrown into, this insane thing that she's never seen before. She's like, what the hell?
Yeah, she's the fangirl. And in Ms. Marvel's series, we see her. She's dressing up as a fangirl. She's going to a convention.
It's like us getting powers.
Yeah, exactly. and so it'll be really fun to see that play out on the big screen. Her shoulder to shoulder with Brie Larson and Teyonah Parris. I think
with the plot details that I've heard make me interested because there is a rift between Teyonah Parris' character and Brie Larson's character. Because Teyonah Parris' mom died, Captain Marvel is supposed to be her god aunt, and she never came back. And then Mani Vellani's character Kamala is idolizing Captain Marvel, and she kind of sees that, oh, she's not who I think she is, and she starts attaching herself to Monica Rambeau instead. So I think that dynamic there and them working through that could be very, very interesting too.
Yeah, and this is also one that's on my list. I have the Marvels at number 2. Before Thor: Love and Thunder, Captain Marvel was my worst film in the MCU. Just because, when you do a 90s film and it's not a great period piece, when it jumps around and it's a little, there's a lot of controversy over seat numbers buying, and were tickets being sold on ticket sharing apps and kind of manipulating box office figures. Just the whole thing was a little bit of a mess. So the fact that we switched directors from the directing team of the first film, I love the character of Captain Marvel. I love Brie Larson. I think that she got a little bit caught up. If you saw, I don't know if you've seen some of those clips of her promoting Avengers Endgame and sitting next to
Hemsworth.
Yeah, sitting next to Chris Hemsworth and sitting next to
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Don Cheadle. Her sitting next to Don Cheadle, and Don Cheadle is so annoyed by her that she's elbowing him a little bit, and he's like, dude, come on. So, as likable as Don Cheadle is, for him to be annoyed by her, I think, she's so talented as an actress. Having her headlining an MCU film might have been a bit much for her at that point.
I do think that was playful though, because her and Don Cheadle are actually friends, and they've done movies together. So I think that was kind of them just being stupid.
Yeah, and I hope so. And this is probably just me overreacting. The fact that they changed the formula a little bit for the sequel, it's a team up movie now. we're getting the new energy of Amon Villani, and we're getting Teyonah Parris, and we're
A
kind of
talented
moving.
director.
Yeah, we're getting Nia DaCosta stepping into the director's chair as writer and director. So I like, in Kevin Feige, I trust until that trust is lost for whatever reason. So the fact that this was the one MCU film before Thor 4 that I didn't have a go watch this recommendation to, that they've made all the changes that I would have asked them, that I would have wanted to see them make. So I'm really super excited for this film, and so it's my number 2. By the way, what do you think of the villain setting up for this film? I'm not familiar. We see her in the trailers, and I'm not really sure who her character is.
I think she's like how Ronan the Accuser from the Guardians movie, and he was in the first Captain Marvel. She's the next one.
Oh, okay. And
but I don't think she's gonna be the main villain. I think that she's gonna be like how Ronan the Accuser was, and she's gonna be a side character, and the main villain's gonna be revealed later, like how they did in the first Captain Marvel. That's what I feel is gonna happen.
And she has the matching cufflink or the braces, the arm braces. I forget what they call them.
Negabonds, I think they're called Negabonds or something like that.
Amon Villani's character, Kamala Khan, has one, and she has the one of the villains has the matching one, and somehow ties them all together. So this is also on my list. I love Joaquin Phoenix. Beau is Afraid aside, I love Ridley Scott. He has a few bad clunkers here and there, but Alien alone, The Martian, one of the great feel-good films. We always talk about short guys as short guys with attitude as having a Napoleon complex, and throwing in Joaquin Phoenix there. There's something that he's not like 5'2" or 5'3" like Napoleon was, but he is a quirky actor. So tell me about Napoleon.
Yeah, like I'll never forget. I have such a story with this because I remember I heard the Napoleon trailer came out, and I was like, I'm not gonna react to that. That don't even sound like something I'm gonna watch. I know it's Ridley Scott, and I know it's Joaquin, but it's a biopic about Napoleon. Blah 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 blah. But I was like, you know what? Let me do it, and it's my most viewed video on my channel.
Really?
It's got me the most subscribers I've ever gotten, and it still gets views to this day, months later. So on that, I always have an emotional attachment to that because I can't wait to top it and break that. But I was just blown away by the trailer. The way Oppenheimer, I think, changed the game for biopics and making it like such an epic film. There was a time where I felt like biopics were going through the motions in terms of doing the same kind of flow every single time. Had a hard growing up, their rise, then they do coke, and then they rise back up.
The dark middle chapter, and then the rising of the phoenix out of the ashes.
Yeah, like almost every biopic was doing that, and I think that lately we've been getting like Tetris biopic, very very different.
Product biopics now.
Yeah. Blackberry, another product. Air, another product, but another great film that came out this year. And they're all biopics. And then Oppenheimer is the ultimate one. And I think that this can be on the level of Oppenheimer if it's done correctly, because it looks like they're going to focus on him a lot. But it looked like the action is actually going to be focused on. And it looks like it's going to be done really well, like an exciting way. So that's why I'm excited. And Joaquin Phoenix, I've never seen him bad in a movie. You never really were there. Joker. I know you don't like Beau is Afraid, but I thought he was great in Beau is Afraid. So many other films. He's just one of the greatest to do it today.
The one thing, and this is probably just me being old, but Joaquin Phoenix, we know he's not that short. You see Joaquin Phoenix walking side by side with Vanessa Kirby. He's visibly shorter, and I keep thinking of Tim Conway as Dorf. So anyone who's old enough who saw Tim Conway from the Carol Burnett Show had a whole series of videos that he did straight to DVD, straight to VHS back in the 80s and 90s. There would be all of these late night infomercials. He would sit back on his butt, and it would look like he was just jumping up to his feet. And so Dorf on golf, Dorf on basketball, Dorf on all these things, with him with a really bad penciled-in mustache. For whatever reason, when I see Joaquin Phoenix waddling along next to Vanessa Kirby as Napoleon with that ridiculous Napoleon hat, I keep thinking Tim Conway as Dorf. Another side effect of being fortunate enough to go to CinemaCon we did get it was like a 10 or 15 minute version of big battle scene at the end of the film with Napoleon and the ice, and you see parts of it in the trailer where they shoot the cannons through the ice. We got like a 10 or 15 minute version of that scene, and it was edited but not like effects and everything, so it was like a few, you could see the scrims going off, and it is so freaking epic. And this is one where the footage hadn't even been color corrected yet. So it reminded me in some ways of those, like in Braveheart, those big, epic, wide-scale action scenes with like hundreds of extras. It kind of felt like that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to.
Oh man, you just got me even more excited.
Love Ridley Scott. I love Joaquin Phoenix, and you already said it. Her, the Joker. I mean, hell, even going all the way back to American Gladiator, Joaquin Phoenix is I think one of those he's one of those guys that's really, really underrated as an actor because he's an Oscar-nominated actor.
Winner.
He's Oscar-winning actor who, if anything, he's gotten so famous for being quirky and going on David Letterman, being in character. I think it kind of hurt his career for a little while there. It might have been sort of like Pearl Jam's battle with Ticketmaster. Like, they were a little bit wary of being famous, so they sort of made up battle with Ticketmaster, so they use that as an excuse not to tour and not lose their street cred. So I think that's sort of Joaquin Phoenix's version of needing to take a step back and take some time for himself without it making it look like his career was purposely on the skids.
I think also part of it is like when you're not part of any franchise at all, it hurts for the mainstream appeal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to imagine... And yeah, he's in the Joker, but he's not really in the DCEU.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be Doctor Strange.
Oh, that would have been interesting to see, too.
Yeah, but his schedule didn't match up, so...
I love Benedict Cumberbatch, but that would have been interesting. In some ways, I think that would have been more of an appropriate fit than Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch does a great job with that, so... I have that one at number 9. As we kind of come down the stretch here, your number 3 movie... This is a real interesting one. The Creator. This is a sci-fi film coming out this month. It, much like another film on our list, it looks like it probably should be in the Star Wars universe, but it's not. Tell me about The Creator, starring John David Washington.
It's funny you said Star Wars universe because this is the guy who directed Rogue One.
Yep,
so that's why we have that feel. One fact that he directed Rogue One gets me excited because that is might be my favorite Star Wars movie. So I'm excited to see what he can do with like an original idea, get shed kind of that Star Wars thing of like, oh yeah, you made Rogue One, but what else can you do? So I'm rooting for him to do well in this and with a decent budget. I'm also rooting for John David Washington because I have an unpopular opinion about him. I think that he's been okay at everything he's been in. I haven't seen BlacKkKlansman, so I can't talk about his performance in there, and I heard that he was great in that. But everything else I've seen him in, I was like, oh, he's been okay.
Ballers? He was good in Ballers?
I haven't seen that. That's the Dwayne The Rock show, right? I haven't got to see that yet either. So I might have missed some of his best performances, which is very possible. But I'm rooting for him. I want him to get like a vehicle, and he was okay in Tenet, but that was a mess of a movie to me. And I don't think Chris Nolan did a great job directing him. But there's a bunch of actors in here that I'm excited for with John David Washington. I'm a fan of Gemma Chan as another actress that feel like kind of gets typecasted into the fairy woman role a lot. I feel like that's what she plays, and every time I see her.
She was good in Eternals.
Yeah, she was great in Eternals. And it's funny, she was good in Captain Marvel too. Got to play 2 MCU roles. She was green in one. I'm a fan of Benedict Wong, and there's a couple actors in here that are like character actors that I'm a fan of that I'm excited to see. But the concept, a big thing about right now is the battle of AI. What's the responsible way to deal with things with AI? Should we be using it and things like that? And I think that the fact that this is dealing with like way far in the future where AI has gone crazy and they're doing what so many people have warned us about. Terminator has warned us about already. It's going to be like an eye-opener, and hopefully people see this like, oh yeah, see, look again, we get a modern movie that's showing us that you shouldn't be doing this. But the idea of like a person's mission is to take out this thing, and then it being like a kid and them having conflicting emotions about that, even though they know it's a robot, but the fact that it looks and acts like a kid, I think can be an interesting storyline. And I'm always down for a new sci-fi world. I think that's like the biggest thing.
Absolutely. And before we know it, there's going to be The Creator 75. Creator prequels. The creator of the creator.
The creator 2049.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, to look at this and see Allison Janney's in this. Anytime you can have a West Wing actor in there, that's another good sign. And, look, Ken Watanabe. I love everything he does. Even if Ken Watanabe is not saying Godzilla, it's still good to have Ken Watanabe in a film, because people forget that Ken Watanabe was in Inception, and he was sort of the target of the heist, of the dream heist in Inception. Solid actor. The fact that we have this kind of a stacked cast in a Gareth Edwards film that's not attached to any major IP intellectual property shows exactly how good the script must be. I think that Tenet was a victim of so many of Christopher Nolan's movies go past 3 hours or push the 3-hour limit. My theory was that Warner Brothers was finally like, all right, you have director's cut, you have final cut, but you have to deliver a film that's 2.5 hours or less. So if you look at the runtime, it's like 2 hours and 29 minutes on the nose. But at the same time, him as a director was like, but I'm not cutting anything out. So I think that's part of what the flow problem was, what the pacing problem was that they cut everything down to be the shortest version possible. And Tenet just didn't have time to breathe. Because, we can't cut out any storylines, God forbid, so let's include everything. And by doing so, to me... to me, by doing so, by not giving it any time to breathe, nothing really sinks in. So it's sort of like...
And also the audio issues as well. When I watched it in theaters, I was like, I don't understand anything that's going on, really, in certain scenes.
Well, that's just Christopher Nolan in general.
Yeah, that's true. It happened in Oppenheimer, too, so I can't even talk.
Once Inception came out, I was like, man, I know I got to watch this a second time before I can even comment on it. So I love John David Washington, and the fact that he hasn't done a movie with his dad yet, I have a certain amount of respect for that, because Hollywood is just such a thing where it's all about connections. And I'm sure he uses he didn't change his last name like Nicolas Cage did, but the fact that he hasn't relied on his dad directly, at least in terms of co-storing with him. Hey, let's do a father-son buddy comedy or whatever. I have a certain amount of respect for that, and him kind of coming up through Ballers and doing non-leading man roles and just doing the work and becoming a good actor. I respect that. And
his sister is now making her way up. She's in a show on Amazon Prime called Virgo, and she's doing a really good job in that show. Olivia Washington.
Olivia Washington, nice. Dumb Money. This is a biopic. Everyone's favorite Seth Rogen. This is all about the GameStop stock controversy. If we're unfamiliar with the GameStop stock controversy, basically what it was some guy named Roaring Kitty. Paul Dano plays Roaring Kitty, and he starts a trend on Reddit where people start buying GameStop stock. And much like The Big Short, which was nominated for a ton of other Oscars, The Big Short was all about Wall Street money betting on the market to fail. This is about hedge funds betting on GameStop to fail. The common man, the everyday man, the Roaring Kitties of the world going on YouTube, going on Reddit, and saying, you know what? We think there's value in GameStop, and you're not going to stop us. Damn it. So, all-star cast, Paul Dano on one side, on the everyman side. We actually have Seth Rogen playing one of the billionaire hedge fund guys, so being one of the haves versus the have-nots, which is sort of unique to his career. And just so many talented actors and actresses.
The list is crazy. This might be the most stat cast of all the movies that we've...
Yeah. And I'm just so looking forward to this film. I wouldn't be shocked if, in the same way that The Big Short got nominated for a few Oscars here and there, I wouldn't be shocked if somehow, even as more of a comedy, that we got some nominations coming out of this film. The big recommendation is that this movie looks great, but it's one that has a lot of moving pieces, much like The Big Short. So watch Diamond Hands. That's Diamond Hands. Like people holding onto a piece of coal so hard that the coal turns into a diamond. Great documentary. Just a quick, hour and a half long documentary. So watch that before watching Dumb Money. Because, it's a lot of technical jargon and stuff. So But once you kind of see some of the characters in it and see the David versus Goliath story and get past all the technical stuff, I don't know if we're going to get Margot Robbie drinking champagne in a bathtub. Seth Rogen showed up at CinemaCon having just wrapped Dumb Money at the time.
Wow.
So
Let's
he
talk about how
produced.
prolific.
He was producing. He wasn't in
Joyride.
Joyride, that's it. He produced Joyride, so he was there to talk about being a producer on Joyride. And anyhow, the film that he had just finished filming at the time was Dumb Money. So.
Wow. Yeah, this man is a phenomenal, one of the best producers in this industry right now.
And very smart to, while he's still a huge star, break into the producing bracket. So this is Leo, this is Scorsese, this is an oddly streaming film based on a real life story. It is Killers of the Flower Moon.
It's going to get the theatrical release. It's going to get a run before it gets to Apple TV. So I will check it out in theaters because I'm excited. This seems like a theatrical. It's a long movie, so I'm going to be prepared for that. This is another one where I was like, and I reacted to the trailer, and I was like, holy crap. This looks amazing. Both trailers. I'm really excited about Lily Gladstone. I've been hearing great things for the people who have already seen this movie, that she gives a phenomenal performance. I've never seen her anything else before, but I'm hearing that she's phenomenal and she's going to steal the show. And this is another stat cast. You know, got Leo in there, got Robert De Niro. I think it's a story that needs to be told. There's not a lot of stories told from the perspective of Native Americans fighting back. It's mostly like, we took their land and they gave up. So we're going to get that story of like, no, they were combative and they had land and they were using what they were supposed to use in a proper way. And they're not some savages. I think that tied with it being a love story as well, kind of in there, could be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's the story of the Osage Nation finding oil on tribal land when it was the land that no one else wanted. So that's why the Osage Nation got it. And then what happens when there's a gold rush? There's an oil rush for the oil underneath the land that the Osage tribe has. That chaotic time in the 1920s, and it's prohibition, and it's that time where before the FBI was really the FBI. Martin Scorsese as the director, the fact that Jesse Plemons now. How does Jesse Plemons go from being a Breaking Bad guest star to now being in Oscar-nominated films the last couple of years? But great actor. John Lithgow, an Oscar winner, Brendan Fraser, doing the follow-up to Whale. This is, and I agree with, when I'm with you, I've never seen Lily Gladstone before, but she looks like she's holding her own with Leonardo DiCaprio, which is the last time that happened in my memory is Margot Robbie shot to fame, worldwide fame after starring opposite of Leonardo DiCaprio. So,
and speaking of that, I hope this gives some shine to some of these Native American actors and they get more roles off of this.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if Adam Beach is in this film, but thinking back to Adam Beach getting a big boost to his career after Oscar-nominated film 20 years ago. So hopefully this film can be a good launching pad for launching Native American actors, being working actors, and having careers of their own. So this looks phenomenal. Looking over at the chat, we have C4 Yourself.
Hey Ken.
Hey, welcome. One of Zach's viewers coming over. Thank you for giving me a shout out here. He says, I'm looking forward to Dumb Money. Saw the trailer in Gran Turismo yesterday. Sorry about Gran Turismo.
He likes it like me. You don't have to say sorry.
Oh, right. I'm glad you liked it. And then he says, Killers of the Flower Moon seems like it doesn't quite show up here. Tyrion Lannister. This is
I think I saw the trailer for this.
Yeah, and it's this bizarre, quirky character type film where he plays a composer, a Broadway composer. Anne Hathaway plays his marriage therapist wife. And for whatever reason, Marissa Tomei plays Peter Dinklage's muse after they have an affair. So she came to me. Coming out, it's an indie film. It's a love story. I mean, I guess it's a marriage story. It's probably an open marriage,
study, maybe.
Yeah, it's a character study. It's an open marriage. It's sort of like an open affair, but it's creatives in New York. It's character driven. It's Well, hell, Anne Hathaway's an Oscar winner, so is Marissa Tomei.
She's always great.
Yeah, and if he hasn't been nominated for an Oscar at this point, he probably will be at some point in Peter Dinklage. He was great in Cyrano, so I love when Peter Dinklage is playing roles that aren't necessarily the little person role. Like when he's playing just an average, like a role that any other actor would play. I love that he kind of stretches the definition, stretches. And this looks like a case of that where he's playing the moody artiste who gets writer's block. And
we've seen that before.
Yeah, and under a ton of pressure, and he's married to Anne Hathaway, and he finds his muse, and it just looks like one of those great character-driven pieces that it's one of those that if it was being released in November or December, I would say there might be an outside chance it could get some nominations here and there. Probably not. It's probably just more that it'll just be a fun indie film character piece. But anytime you get those three actors, and I don't think I've ever seen Anne Hathaway, Marissa Tomei, and Peter Dinklage in the same movie together. Everything about this film, I love it, so it's my number 3 film.
Also, Nicole Kidman, Steve Carell, and Amy Schumer, and Matthew Broderick, who's underrated. Talented
people coming together. I mean, the reactions to that they must have had to the screenplay is that's sort of what when you see this many talented people coming together in an indie film where there isn't a lot of money, to me screams out that it has an amazing screenplay. So all of that together is why it's my number 3. Have you seen the trailer for She Came to Me?
Yes, I think it came on when I was going to go see Retribution, which was like the best part of my night that night. And I was like, wow, this looks really fun. And I'm excited to check it out. Hopefully a lot of these smaller films I don't get to check out until they come to streaming, because it's hard for me to see multiple movies in a week. Especially on like that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I usually see a movie on either Thursday or Friday, and that's all I can see for the weekend. But I'm definitely going to check it out eventually.
By the way, you live in Brooklyn, you live in New York. Like, what is the indie movie going scene like? Like, I know they shoot a lot of films in New York, but what is the culture of indie movies in New York like?
There's a lot of it in like Williamsburg and the Upper West Side and Soho, and sometimes they'll shoot it in areas near me, but they'll like, this is Chicago, and I'm like, this is not Chicago, this is Brooklyn. What are you doing? When I was working on the Upper West Side, I used to work in a physical therapy clinic over there, and a lot of actors would come there for like not major ones, but like Netflix actors that I was like, oh, you were in Daredevil. If you ever seen the Daredevil show, the Asian villainess, I forgot what her name was.
Madame Gao.
Villain. Yeah, she came for physical therapy at my office. I was like, oh my god. And you'll just see them there.
She was the head of the hand.
Yeah, I ran into Paul Rudd while he was on a date years ago. And that was fun. And he was just coming from like shooting something, and he met up with somebody. So like you'll see actors here and there, and you'll see things like car chases, and you're like, what's going on, when it's like part of a movie.
Was Paul Rudd on a date while going to physical therapy?
No.
Because that's something
like a Paul Rudd thing.
Yeah, I can see Paul Rudd doing that. I can see Paul Rudd doing I can see Paul Rudd doing a film where he goes on a date as he goes to physical therapy. That's actually not a bad idea for a screenplay.
No, they could be very creative and fun.
Yeah,
add Tristan Gordon-Levitt in there, and Seth Rogen, and we got a film.
Yeah, that's cool. So thriving indie scene, and
and they have some indie theaters in there too, like that. We have like this really old school theater that looks like an old theater, and they still have reels. Not everything is digital. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. This is another Star Wars movie that's not a Star Wars movie. This is...
Literally, this time.
Yeah, literally. This is... Zack Snyder decided to pitch a Star Wars movie. Kathleen Kennedy decided to skip. And so they're making it anyway. And they used a great name, Rebel Moon, somehow. One of the few things not copyrighted by Star Wars and Disney. So... Tell me about Rebel Moon.
I'm really excited because I'm a very big Zack Snyder fan. He's either one or two in terms of favorite directors, with Denis Villeneuve, who making a similar movie in Dune. This looks like he's combining all the different things that he's learned from each of his movies and putting it in one epic 3-parter. I like Star Wars, but I'm not I'm not a hardcore Star Wars fan. I do think Star Wars plays it safe a lot with what they do. They have like a ebb and flow with things, and it never breaks away from it. And anytime they do, the fans go crazy. So the fact it's true. Taika Waititi doing that one episode of Mandalorian where he made the Star Troopers funny, everybody went crazy. I'm like, they give him some personality. It's fine. It's okay. But okay, like stay away from Star Wars. It'd just be very plain. Be Ron Howard.
Opie
But I'm
directed a
excited.
movie. You
Yeah.
gotta love. I mean, who doesn't love Opie? But you ready?
He's when you need a solid movie that's not gonna insult no one, you hire Ron Howard. He's great at that.
And his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, also now directed.
She should direct a Star Wars movie. Some of her episodes that she's directed are the best Star Wars stuff. So,
Yep.
But the fact that he's combining like inspirations from Hercules and Greek mythology, some Harry Potter stuff going on there. You can see a little bit of Game of Thrones and obviously Star Wars. The fact that someone had the balls to use lightsabers. It feels like for so long that other franchises have been scared to even like touch it because like it's a Star Wars.
Laser swords, I think is probably what I would assume that lightsabers is probably copyrighted.
Yeah, he's not gonna call it that.
Look, when you see the trailer and it's like it's lightsabers. It's laser.
They look a little different the way they move, but it's lightsabers. And then when I hear details about the film, this sounds like a stereotypical Chosen One film. You find them in the cane fields, and they're coming to unite the nations. First of all, this looks amazing for a Netflix film. Could have been in the theater. Visually, in the background, there's always something interesting happening while they're showing you the human characters. But did a little background on the story, and the savior dies in the beginning of the film. And this is Anthony Hopkins, who plays a robot, telling the story of the fallout of that, which is different. Usually, the movie would be about the chosen one, but this is about what happens if the chosen one dies before they get to do their task. And I think that's unique. I don't think we've really gotten that before. His best work is when he gets to work long form. I'm surprised still Zack Snyder hasn't made a movie series, like a 8-part series show or something like that, because that's when he does his best work. But the fact that it's going to be separated in 3 films, I think we're going to get a banger.
You think this is going to be his version of Lord of the Rings?
There's some Lord of the Rings vibes there. I can see that. I can see there, because there's a thing of like all the main characters are in different places. And then at the end, it says, who are you going to step up and might die? And you see them all come in the same picture. So I could see the Lord of the Rings thing. Like, I'm a new Lord of the Rings fan. I watched the first one the first time this year. And I could see them like being separate through that first movie. And then the end of the first movie is they're finally together. They're on the same page. Let's go to that next mountain or whatever happens. Yeah. And I can see them doing that. So yeah, it looks like he's pulling from different things that we love, putting the Zack Snyder code on it.
This cast is amazing. It's Sofia Boutella, who's totally appreciated. Ed Skrein, another guy, Jenna Malone. Anthony Hopkins is a lot like Morgan Freeman. They could read the phone book, and I'd be entertained. Yeah. And then, of course, Carrie Elwes, as you wish, as the Princess Bride. So, I love the idea of this film. And that first trailer, when the first trailer dropped, it's weird. A teaser trailer, but it's 3.5 minutes long. So it was a huge amount of footage that they put into
it's teasing 2 films, that's why.
Oh, okay. And then that makes sense that they shot, if they did like they did with, like Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings, shoot 2 or 3 films back to back to back, all at once. That makes sense and a good way to save money. I mean, granted, Netflix is not suffering on money, but movies are expensive.
Yeah, they're getting more and more expensive as we go.
So it'll be interesting to see. Do you think that we'll get a tiny theatrical release for Rebel Moon as it comes out around Christmas time?
He's pushing for it to get a theatrical release. And Netflix, when it comes to their bigger films, they usually give it a week.
Yeah.
So that's in order to get Oscar considerations. If the VFX is as good as it looks throughout the film, it could get a VFX knob. So I think just like Glass Onion and Extraction and a bunch of other films that they have confidence in, and the way they have confidence in. After Army of Dead, I think they have full confidence in Zack Snyder, because that and Army of Thieves were big for them. It got them subscribers. People watched those. and they're doing a third one.
Army of the Dead was a lot better than I was expecting.
Me
Yeah,
too.
and it was because it
And I'm a
was
fan of him.
yeah, and it was because it was fun. That's my biggest criticism with Zack Snyder is like I love 300 because it's just epic and grand, and I love Sucker Punch, but some of his films can
Yes,
be
Sucker
just
Punch fan.
yeah, and just the visuals alone in Sucker Punch are brilliant,
Yeah.
and then why why the guy from Mad Men shows up at the very end is sort of beyond me, but. I love John Hamm, but like, why is the guy from Mad Men here? Some of his movies, suffer a little bit from the lack of fun.
Fun.
And
Yeah.
Army of the Dead was a lot of fun. So yeah, this one looks like a grand epic. I think this could be like as Lord of the Rings is to Peter Jackson. I think this could be
His.
Rebel Moon as to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, and I think if he brings that fun there, and that because the cinematography feels like Sucker Punch slash 300 style, and less like his DC stuff. So if he could bring that epicness and fun into it, I think that it'll be a winner.
And his sense of visuals, his sense of style is unlike anyone else. I think
Yeah.
the closest thing would be like a Tim Burton, but Tim Burton
Yeah.
is his own style. Like this
He's
is
more
like
stylized, like
yeah,
with
like
his set design.
yeah. I mean, like if you took Tim Burton and gave him like an entire truck full of Red Bull and Slim Jims, to me that would be Zack Snyder. Like. Just lock him in lock him in a shipping container full of Red Bull and Slim Jims, and he emerges as Zack Snyder fully formed. 300, yes, ancient Greece,
Dude.
ah.
And like you talked about, I think damn, which director was you were talking about? Michael Mann, how he's like the director. Zack Snyder like takes the camera and shoots a lot of the shots himself.
Oh yeah,
Which a lot of directors don't do that anymore. They have someone to operate the camera and they direct it. So I just like the personal touch he adds to his films.
Yeah, and he always seems like he has such a specific vision to things as well. For some reason, it's not Dune 2 because they've already done one of those. But Dune Part 2, it's Denis Villeneuve, it's Timothée Chalamet, it's Zendaya, it's everyone from every other movie that you love.
Jason Momoa died in the last one. Spoiler alert.
But he's in the franchise. Oscar Isaac. We've got Dave Bautista.
Rebecca Ferguson.
We've got Stellan Skarsgård, who probably needs to go on the Brendan Fraser weight loss plan after this one, after The Whale. Even Rebecca Ferguson. Depressing that Rebecca Ferguson is old enough to play the mom of Timothée Chalamet. But all these really super talented actors. The first film was so epic that I don't mind pronouncing Denis Villeneuve, like the full French pronunciation to his name. Like, all right, Dennis. But no, it's Denis Villeneuve, who's not so full of himself that he's not at least fun during interviews and a good artist. So yeah. Look, the effects in the first film. I am the first person that makes fun of CGI. And this is true. My literal fantasy football team name is CGI Ruins Movies. That is my fantasy football team name. Has been for over 10 years now. So you can picture my thoughts on CGI in general. But in the first film, in Dune, and I was shocked that they didn't shoot both these films back to back. But the effects, the CGI effects in that film are phenomenal. Even just something as simple as the mosquito wings on the little air carrier, the airplane thing, as they flew around is phenomenal. I can't pretend to be an expert on Frank Herbert and the books. I think I tried reading the books when I was in high school, and it didn't grab me in the way that Lord of the Rings grabbed me. I love that the original 1984 film has both Emperor Palpatine and Captain Picard. So the fact that this original material has been getting great British actors to go out into the desert to be in a sci-fi film for 40 years already is amazing to me. So,
and it inspired Star Wars. This is the thing that inspired Star Wars to be created. So I'm really excited that it's getting its due at the same time.
I believe it's the origin of giant sandworms because you see Tremors And you even see
Yeah.
Star Wars now with sandworms and sand creatures that are
Mm-hmm.
huge, devouring everything in sight. I believe, I don't know if I'm sure there's probably nothing's original anywhere, but
Yeah.
the first place I saw anything like that was in Dune from Frank Herbert. I'm sure someone could probably point me wrong, but in terms of
Yeah.
pop culture,
He's the
uh,
one that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that made it huge and yeah, spectacular. So Dune Part 2, not Dune 2. By the way, Dune 2, as far as like PC video games, like 10, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, I guess technically, a great video game, PC game. But yeah, Dune Part 2.
Speaking of games, we're getting a game based off this
Yeah,
movie.
and I hope it's going to be as good as the film looks, because
Yeah, me too.
it looks good. I like both of our lists, and there's not much. There's I think 5 or 6 films that cross over between the two. But I
Yeah.
like that our lists are different, and yet I think we have similar tastes in films. So
Yes.
kind of reflect a little bit for me on your list. Would you change any films out? Would you change where they are on the list?
There's some films that you mentioned that I can't name exactly right now that I'll probably swap out for some of the films on that I have on here. Probably would take out Equalizer 3. I probably might take out Anatomy of the Fall and slide some of the films that you brought up that I never heard of, like Well, I heard Dumb Money, but I forgot about it when I was making this list.
Mm.
So I'd probably slide Dumb Money in here. There's another film that you mentioned that sounded really interesting that I probably would slide in here. One of the romantic comedies, because I'm a big romantic comedy guy. So the
Mm.
fact that I didn't know some were coming out, the one with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, I'm actually looking forward to. So I would
Oh,
probably
anyone but
swap.
you.
Yeah, anyone, but I would probably swap one of those in there because I didn't know that was coming out this year. I thought it was next year. And then the Enemy of the Fall, the more I started talking about it, more I'm like, it might end up being a Lifetime film. So I can swap those out and put some of those other films you talked about in there.
Which of these films, by the way, do you think will be a sneak? Like in the same way that Barbie, people were aware of Barbie, but then as soon as
Mhm.
Barbie came out, it exploded. And I don't think anyone thought that Barbie would make $1 billion.
Don't see anything Barbie level. But in terms of just being successful, I think my 7, 8, and 9 have potential to be Sneakers, Bottoms, Nick's Gold Wins, and Wonka. If they get really high review scores, especially Wonka, that's the one that's going to be the most famous out of the 3 of these. Have high review scores. Maybe Timothy Chalamet can bring some people to the theater. So far, he hasn't. Then Wonka could definitely do big business. And Next Goal Wins because it's Taika and he has his fan base and it looks fun. And Michael Fassbender is not a box office super draw, but he does make people go, he's in this. Who else is in there?
Yeah.
He's that kind of, so they might go check it out, launch the trailer. Like, this looks funny. And then Bottoms, just because I think it's coming out right at the right time for a comedy. So I think it might be a breakout comedy.
It'll be interesting to see too. I'm forgetting her name, but the writer director of Bottoms. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if Bottoms is a big hit, what her next film is, or if she gets like the big blockbuster film.
Yeah, I could see somebody picking her up because Shiva Baby, which was her first film, her first big one, who also starred Rachel Sennott, who stars in this next one. So I guess that's her partner in crime.
And that was a surprisingly good film too. Like tiny film shot, I think on Long
Yeah.
Island somewhere. From looks of it, is just all shot at a funeral or whatever it was. Also, Shiva Baby had Diana Agron.
Yeah,
As
another actress that's underrated.
Yeah. So totally underrated, but yeah, that Shiva Baby was a good film. Looking at my list, it's always hard coming up with these lists, especially when it's a couple months out, but that's part of the fun of it too. Some of these films, they're not higher on my list because they don't have trailers yet, which surprises me a little bit, considering that trailers now are sort of in the can for 6 months to a year. So we go with what we have when we have it. Super, super excited for all the films on this list. Sort of like your list. Like, there's some of the ones on there that The Creator, The Holdovers. I'm excited, and I love Alexander Payne, but it's one that I just don't know. It's more like the name recognition that's really exciting me, and it's Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
I love the names, I love the setting, but it's not higher on my list for whatever reason, and I don't know what that reason is. The rom-coms especially, love at first sight. Anyone but you. She Came to Me. The ones that are fun to even just say the title of, looking forward to. So, yeah, really looking forward
your Persian version, too. I
Yeah.
would swap that into. That premise sounds really crazy.
And the fact that we haven't had the Persian Virgin as well. I think it's probably that one's got to be coming next. And
That should have been called. If she's a lesbian, that means she probably was a virgin when that happened.
The immaculate birth of the pregnant lesbian.
Yes.
I can totally see that. Yeah, totally. That's our list. So,
yeah, man.
Thank you for coming on. Anything you'd like to plug coming up?
Hey, I have a live stream celebrating hitting 600 subscribers. I'm gonna have a digital giveaway of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so that should be really, really great. Gonna play a game on here that I'm trying to figure out of charades to see if I can play it with the people watching. So that should be fun. Obviously, it's also gonna be an Ask Me Anything Q&A, so people could just ask me questions about anything. But in between, just to have a little bit of fun, I have a Why I Love Going to the Theater film that I'm working on, where I go through some of my movie tickets that I've saved. So that should be really, really fun. I've noticed that me doing like videos about like my personal experiences and things about like what I like have done well. So I want to lean more into that. And I just, just having a fun time. Like that's what I love to do. I have a series on my channel called The Movies That Made Us, where I interview content creators like Dragon, who I'm gonna off camera, we'll set it up so you can come on my channel and do that. That's going to be real fun. And I have a Preston who was in the chat for a little bit. I believe this is his month to do it. So I'm really excited to do that for September. And yeah, check out Zack Attack Reviews, man.
Check out Zack Attack Reviews. And now that you mentioned all of the different Zacks in the movie review space,
yeah,
when you finally get all of the Zacks in one place, I really want to see that video. Is it like is it just going to be? Is it going to break into a giant Saved by the Bell episode where it's all?
We're going to have to make it thematic like that.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Start bringing in Zach and Cody and
Zach
the Black Ranger. Let's just get references from all. I guess Zachary Taylor, the president. Let's just get all the Zacks.
Every Zack is welcome at the heck, and you never know. 5-10 years from now, you could have Zack Con, the Zack convention. Zack. That's even better. Zackapalooza. Oh man, if you don't have the copyright for that, get the copywriter the trademark for Zackapalooza. That's brilliant. I love that. So Zach from Zack Attack Reviews, thank you for coming on. Dragon Movie Guy. Everyone, check out Zack Attack Reviews. Like, subscribe, share. I think honestly, you probably have brought more viewers to my channel than I'm going to drive to yours. But I'm going to do my best to say, everyone, check out Zack Attack Reviews over on his YouTube channel. Also, links in the video description below. I have your Twitter, if they still call it Twitter, or if it's X or whatever. We got the Twitter, we've got the Instagram, we even have your Patreon link there too. So
appreciate that.
And any other links that you want, I'll put in the video description afterwards. But all of that, if you want to get in touch with Zach, in the video description below this video. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for checking this out. And
subscribe to him, like his video, share his video,
and subscribe to him too. Or sorry. I set up the live stream. I should know which side I'm on. Yeah, check out Zach too. So, thank you everybody, and we will see you guys next time. See you, everybody.